The house is still, wrapped in the deep, velvet silence of the early morning. The clock on the wall glows with the time. 3 a.m., a familiar and unwelcome friend. Outside, the world is asleep, resting under a blanket of stars. But inside this room, inside your own mind, a silent storm is raging. Thoughts of yesterday, of words said and unsaid, collide with anxieties about tomorrow, about deadlines and duties, about the endless list of things to be done. There is a profound loneliness in this moment, a sense of being the only person awake in the universe, trapped in a conversation with yourself that you cannot seem to end. This isn't just a bad night. This has become a state of being, a recurring pilgrimage to the weary hours of the morning, where rest feels like a distant shore you can see, but never reach. We have come to accept this struggle as a normal part of modern life, a tax we pay for our ambition and our productivity. But what if this exhaustion, this constant mental chatter, is not the disease itself, but merely a symptom of a deeper condition, a mind that has been trained for everything except for how to be still. Our world worships motion. It rewards the hustle. It celebrates the one who is always on, always connected, always striving. And so our minds obey. They run and run, long after our bodies have collapsed onto the sheets, replaying the day and rehearsing the future, because they have simply forgotten the ancient art of rest. But there exists a different way, a path walked for centuries by those who sought not to conquer the world, but to understand the mind. A Zen master does not fight the sleepless night. They do not wrestle with their thoughts for control. They do not try to sleep. The secret, you see, is that sleep is not a goal to be achieved. It is a consequence, a natural result of a mind at peace. The path to a restful night does not begin with a pill, but with a gentle turning inward, a journey to rediscover the silence that is already here, buried beneath the noise. It is a journey of letting go, of making peace with the present moment, and transforming our relationship with the darkness, seeing it not as an enemy, but as a quiet invitation to come home to ourselves. To understand the path to a peaceful night, we must first look honestly at the nature of the night we are currently living. We often see our sleeplessness as the problem itself, a specific malfunction to be fixed. We search for the right tea, the perfect pillow, the ideal temperature, believing that if we can just arrange the external world correctly, our internal world will follow suit. But the wisdom of the masters invites us to look deeper, to see our restless mind not as the disease, but as a symptom. It is the visible peak of a much larger, submerged mountain, a mountain that the Buddha described with a single, profound word, dukkha. This ancient word is often translated as suffering, but its meaning is far more subtle and universal. It is the background hum of unsatisfactoriness, the subtle friction of existence, the feeling that things are just not quite right. It is the stress of wanting things to be different than they are, the anxiety of holding on to what we have, and the sorrow of losing what we love. To be human is to experience this friction, and a sleepless night, lying in the dark with nothing but our own thoughts, is perhaps one of the most concentrated and potent forms of this experience. It is a moment when all the distractions of the day fall away, and we are left alone with the raw, unfiltered nature of our own mind. To recognize this, to see your struggle not as a personal failure, but as a part of this shared human condition, is the first, most compassionate step you can take. It is a step away from blame, and a step toward understanding. The ancient teachers used a powerful metaphor to describe the mind in this state. They called it the monkey mind. Imagine a wild monkey, flitting restlessly from branch to branch, in a vast forest. It cannot stay still for more than a moment. Its attention is pulled by a flash of color here, a distant sound there. It grabs a fruit, takes one bite, and immediately drops it to chase after a fluttering leaf. This, they said, is the nature of an untrained mind. It leaps from a memory of something you did last week to a worry about a meeting tomorrow. It swings from a moment of anger at a past comment to a fantasy about a future vacation. It gets tangled in planning, in regretting, in judging, in desiring, never truly resting in one place. The Buddha told a story of a monkey who, wandering through the forest, came across a patch of sticky tar left by hunters. Curious, the monkey touched the tar with one hand and immediately became stuck. Panicking, it tried to pull its hand free by pressing its other hand into the tar, and that hand too became stuck. In its desperate struggle, it pushed with one foot, then the other, and finally tried to free itself with its mouth until it was completely immobilized, trapped not by the hunter, but by its own frantic efforts to escape. This is a perfect image of our own struggle in the middle of the night. A single, anxious thought arises. This is the first touch of tar. We panic, and in our effort to fight the thought, to push it away, we engage with it. We feed it energy. We create stories around it. We judge ourselves for having it. We are now stuck with our other hand. We then worry about the consequences of not sleeping. I'll be useless tomorrow. And now, our feet are trapped. We become frustrated, angry at our own minds. And now, our face is in the tar. We are completely immobilized by our own reaction to an initial, simple thought. The problem was not the single touch of tar, but the desperate, unskillful struggle that followed. This inherent restlessness, this monkey mind, is a part of our nature. But the world we have built for ourselves in the last century has turned this natural tendency into a chronic condition. If our mind is a monkey, then our modern life is a jungle deliberately engineered to be infinitely stimulating. The branches our monkey mind leaps between are no longer just simple memories and future plans. They are glowing screens that promise endless connection and information. They are the constant ping of notifications, each one a little jolt of manufactured urgency. They are the 24-hour news cycles that feed us a steady diet of fear and outrage. They are the curated perfection of social media feeds that whisper to us of our own inadequacy. They are the relentless pressure of a work culture that bleeds into our evenings and weekends, telling us we should always be doing more, achieving more, optimizing ourselves. We are saturated with stimulation from the moment we wake to the moment we try to sleep. We spend our days training our minds to be distracted, to multitask, to jump from one thing to the next. And then we are mystified when they refuse to be still at night. We have created a world that is the perfect gymnasium for the monkey mind, strengthening its frantic energy with every click, every scroll, every notification. To expect this mind to suddenly become quiet and serene simply because the lights are out is like expecting a marathon runner to have a resting heart rate the moment they cross the finish line. The momentum is too strong. The internal chaos is merely a reflection of the external chaos we have accepted as normal. So where does the solution lie? If the restlessness is inherent to the mind and the world is designed to amplify it, is peace simply impossible? The answer of the masters is a radical one. The solution is not to try and silence the monkey. To fight it is to become the monkey in the tar pit. The solution is not to cut down the entire jungle of the modern world, for we must live within it. The path lies in changing our relationship to the monkey mind itself. It is about learning to sit beside it on the forest floor and to watch its antics with a gentle, non-judgmental awareness. It is to notice it leap from branch to branch without feeling the need to leap with it. It is to see it reach for a fruit of anxiety and to simply observe the action without offering it more fruit to eat. This is the heart of mindfulness. It is not about emptying the mind, which is an impossible and frustrating goal. It is about cultivating a state of awareness that is larger than the mind's chatter. It is like being the sky and allowing the clouds of thought to drift by without resistance. The sky does not fight the clouds. It does not cling to them. It simply provides the space for them to be. In the same way, we can learn to provide a quiet, spacious awareness for our own thoughts and feelings to arise and pass away, without getting swept up in their drama. This is a fundamental shift from being a participant in the mind's chaos to being a compassionate observer of it. This is the beginning of true freedom, and it is a freedom that does not depend on the world outside of you becoming quiet. It is a peace that can be found in the very heart of the noise. It is the discovery of the calm eye within the hurricane of your own mind. We have now seen that the storm of our thoughts is a symptom of a deep human condition, fanned into a tempest by the winds of our age. But knowing this intellectually is one thing. The question that remains, the one that truly torments us in the dark, is why it all feels so painful. Why does this internal weather system produce such profound anguish? This leads us to a crucial distinction, the difference between the simple reality of what is happening and the stories we tell ourselves about it. A distinction the masters called the two arrows. We have arrived at the heart of the matter, the reason why the silent churning of the mind feels less like a simple inconvenience and more like a form of torture. It is one thing to acknowledge that our minds are restless by nature and that our modern world pours fuel on that fire. But this understanding alone does not soothe the deep anguish we feel at 3 a.m. To grasp the source of this pain, we must turn to one of the most practical and profound teachings of the Buddha, a teaching that acts as a precise scalpel to separate what is inevitable from what is self-created. It is the parable of the two arrows. The Buddha said that if a person is struck by an arrow, it is painful. This is the first arrow. It is the direct, unavoidable, and often unpleasant reality of life. Then, if that person begins to worry, to obsess, and to complain about being struck, saying to themselves, "Why me? This is terrible. How will I ever recover?" They are now struck by a second arrow. This second arrow, he taught, is not made of wood and feathers. It is forged from our own minds, from our reaction to the first event. And it is this second arrow that is the source of our true suffering. Let us bring this ancient wisdom into the quiet darkness of your bedroom. The first arrow is the simple, physical reality of your situation. You are awake, that is all. It is the raw data of the present moment. It is the feeling of the sheets against your skin, the subtle hum of electricity in the walls, the awareness of your own thoughts passing through your mind, the sensation of your eyelids being open instead of closed. This first arrow is unavoidable. It has already landed. For whatever reason, biological or psychological, at this moment, your body and mind are not in a state of sleep. This is the simple, impersonal truth. In and of itself, this first arrow carries a certain measure of discomfort, of physical unpleasantness, just as a real arrow would, but it is manageable. It is just a fact, a neutral event in the vast expanse of time. The universe is not judging you for it. It is simply what is happening right now. The real problem, the source of our deep anguish, begins the moment we fire the second arrow into ourselves, and then a third, and a fourth. The second arrow is the story we immediately begin to tell ourselves about the first. It begins with a judgment. This is bad. Then it blossoms into fear. I will be exhausted tomorrow. I won't be able to function. My meeting will be a disaster. I might get sick. This fear is followed by anger and frustration. Why is this happening to me again? My body is betraying me. I can't control my own mind. What is wrong with me? Then comes comparison and despair. Everyone else is sleeping peacefully. I am broken. I am a person with insomnia. This entire cascade of reactivity, of commentary, of catastrophizing is the second arrow. It is a poison we willingly drink in response to a simple prick. The initial pain of being awake is magnified 1,000 times over by the stories we weave around it. We are no longer just dealing with the simple fact of wakefulness. We are now wrestling with fear, with failure, with self-pity, and with a terrifying vision of a future ruined by our present state. We have taken a simple, physical event and transformed it into a complex psychological drama in which we are both the victim and the villain. The path to peace, then, is not to magically prevent the first arrow. Life will always have its share of first arrows. The path is to develop the wisdom and the skill to not fire the second. This is the essence of what is called acceptance. Now, acceptance is a widely misunderstood word. It does not mean resignation. It does not mean you have to like the fact that you are awake. It does not mean giving up and declaring yourself a permanent insomniac. Acceptance, in this context, is a courageous and profoundly sane act. It is the act of looking at the first arrow, lodged as it is, and making a conscious decision to not add another. It is to look the present reality square in the eye and say, okay, this is what is here right now. I am awake. That's it. In that simple, clear-eyed acknowledgement, the internal war stops. You cease fighting with reality. You stop pouring your precious energy into the useless struggle of wishing things were different than they are in this exact moment. And in the space created by that ceasefire, a different quality can emerge. A quality of peace. This points to a great paradox that lies at the heart of our struggle. We lie in bed and we command ourselves, relax. We try with all our might to fall asleep. We put immense effort into the act of surrender. But this very effort is a second arrow. The act of trying to relax is a contraction, a form of tension. True relaxation is not an act of doing, but an act of undoing. It is a letting go. Imagine you are holding a rock in your hand, squeezing it with all your might. Your forearm aches, your knuckles are white. The pain is intense. To find relief, you do not need to do anything new. You do not need to acquire a new skill. You simply need to stop doing what you are doing. You need to open your hand. The struggle with sleep is the same. The effort, the striving, the frustration. This is the clenched fist. To stop firing the second arrow is to simply, gently open the hand. It is to let go of the demand that this moment be anything other than what it is. So we see now that our suffering is not caused by the simple state of being awake. It is caused by the war we wage against that state. We feed our monkey mind with the second arrows of fear and judgment, and then wonder why it rampages through the night. The practice, therefore, is to learn to starve the monkey, to feel the first arrow land, and to breathe, to notice the impulse to fire the second arrow, to see the story of tomorrow's doom begin to form, and to let it go, to unhook ourselves from the narrative. But this raises a crucial, practical question. If we are not to fight, not to struggle, not to engage in the drama, what are we to do? How do we simply be with the discomfort of the first arrow without getting lost? To simply say, accept, is not enough. We need a tool. We need an anchor. We need something to hold our attention, something that is always present, always neutral, something that can ground us in the simple reality of the here and now, preventing us from being swept away by the stories of the second arrow. Fortunately, we are all born with such an anchor, a rhythm that has been with us from our first moment to our last. It is our own breath, and learning to rest our attention upon it is the next step on our journey. We have arrived at a quiet turning point. We have seen that our sleeplessness is a symptom of a restless mind, a mind that is tormented not by the simple fact of being awake, but by the painful second arrows of our own making. We have made a gentle resolution to stop fighting, to lay down our weapons in this internal war. But this resolution leaves us in a vulnerable space, a vast and silent territory without the familiar landmarks of struggle. If we are not to fight, what are we to do? How do we simply rest in the reality of the present moment without being swept away by the currents of anxiety? The answer is so simple, so close, that we have overlooked it our entire lives. The answer is to come home to the breath. Your breath is the most faithful companion you will ever have. It was there in your first moment of life, and it will be there in your last. It asks for nothing. It operates quietly in the background, sustaining you without any conscious effort. Yet, it is always available to you as a focal point, a perfect anchor to moor your awareness in the stormy sea of the mind. It is the bridge that connects your inner world of thought and feeling with the physical reality of your body. It is the rhythm of life itself, happening right now, not a moment ago, not a moment from now, right now. The practice of resting with the breath is known as anapanasati, which simply means mindfulness of breathing. It is not a breathing exercise. This is the most important instruction. You are not trying to control the breath, to make it deeper, slower, or more spiritual. You are simply learning to observe it, to feel it, as it happens naturally. The moment you try to force it, you have introduced effort, and you are once again clenching your fist. The art is in the allowing, the gentle receiving of the breath as it is. So, as you are lying there in the dark, begin by simply bringing your attention to the fact that you are breathing. Let the breath be completely natural. Now, guide your awareness to a place in your body where the sensation of the breath is most distinct for you. For many people, this is at the nostrils. You might feel the subtle coolness of the air as it enters, and the gentle warmth of the air as it leaves. There is no need to imagine it. Just feel the direct, physical sensation. For others, the sensation is more vivid in the chest, a gentle expansion as the lungs fill, and a subtle deflation as they empty. Or perhaps you feel it most in the abdomen, the soft rise of your belly on the in-breath, and the gentle fall on the out-breath, like a quiet wave rising and falling on the shore of a calm sea. It does not matter which you choose. Simply pick one spot and let your attention rest there, as lightly as a butterfly landing on a flower. Your only task is to feel the sensation of one full breath, the inhale, the exhale, and then the next one. The mind will want to label and judge. It will say, "That was a shallow breath," or "I should breathe more deeply." Gently let these comments go. Your job is not to be a critic of the breath, but a curious, compassionate observer. Feel the entire journey of the inhale, from its very beginning to its peak. Notice the tiny pause that sometimes happens after the inhale, before the exhale begins. Then, feel the entire journey of the exhale, the gentle release, the letting go, until it empties completely. And notice the pause that may follow, a moment of profound stillness before the body calls for the next breath. In this simple, focused observation, something miraculous begins to happen. The chaotic, time-traveling monkey mind, which thrives on regrets about the past and anxieties about the future, is gently escorted back to the present moment. Why? Because you cannot breathe tomorrow. You cannot take a breath that happened yesterday. The physical sensation of breathing is happening only and always in the absolute present. When your mind is fully with the breath, it is fully in the now. And in the now, the stories of the second arrow cannot survive. The fear of tomorrow's meeting dissolves, because in this moment, there is only the rise and fall of your belly. The regret from yesterday's argument fades, because in this moment, there is only the feeling of air passing through your nostrils. The breath is the ultimate refuge from the tyranny of time. To help you understand the power of this practice, imagine you are forced to cross a deep chasm on a narrow, rickety rope bridge. As you step out onto the bridge, a terrifying storm begins to rage around you. The wind howls in your ears, a chorus of all your fears and self-doubts. The rain lashes down, the cold sting of your anxieties. Below you, in the darkness of the chasm, you can glimpse the abyss. The catastrophic failure you fear will be the result of your sleeplessness. If you focus on the storm, on the howling wind, you will be paralyzed with terror. If you look down into the abyss, you will become dizzy and fall. The only way to cross safely is to ignore the storm and the abyss completely. You must bring all of your attention, all of your awareness, to a single, stable point. You focus only on the feeling of your hand on the rope and the sensation of your foot landing securely on the next wooden plank. That is all that matters. You take one step and then the next. In the middle of the night, your anxious mind is the storm. Your fears are the abyss. The breath is that single, solid, wooden plank. When the winds of panic begin to howl, you are not to fight them. You are simply to bring all of your attention back to the feeling of the next breath, the next secure step. Inhale, exhale. You are safe on this plank. And then the next one. Inhale, exhale. Each breath is a safe passage through a moment of fear. There is another beautiful way to see this practice. Each breath is a chance to begin again. The inhale is a gathering of new life, of fresh energy, of possibility. It is an act of receiving, of nourishing the body and mind. The exhale is a letting go. With each out-breath, you can imagine you are releasing everything that is no longer needed. You are releasing the tension in your shoulders. You are releasing the anxieties of the day. You are releasing the very effort to fall asleep. Inhale, you receive the present moment. Exhale, you release the struggle. In this rhythm, there is a constant cleansing, a continuous renewal. This means that you can never fail at this practice. If you find that your mind has wandered away from the breath for 5, 10, or even 15 minutes, you have not failed. The moment you become aware that your mind has wandered, that moment of awareness is a moment of success. And in that moment, you have a perfect opportunity to gently, without any judgment or frustration, escort your attention back to the breath. If you have to do this 100 times in a night, it simply means you have had 100 opportunities to practice gentleness, 100 opportunities to begin again. This realization that the mind will wander is not a problem. It is the next stage of the practice itself. And as you rest your attention on the breath, you will inevitably become aware of the clouds that drift across the sky of your mind. Learning what to do with them, how to watch them pass without being carried away, is our next great exploration. As you settle into the quiet rhythm of your breathing, you have found an anchor in the present moment. Yet, as surely as the tide turns, you will notice that the mind has its own currents. You will be resting your attention on the soft rise and fall of your abdomen, and suddenly, you find yourself in an office meeting that happened 5 years ago. You will be feeling the cool air at your nostrils, and a moment later, you are composing a mental list of groceries for the weekend. This is not a failure. This is not a sign that you are bad at this. This moment of realizing your mind has wandered is, in fact, the moment of awakening. It is the heart of the entire practice. The wandering of the mind is not an obstacle to your practice. It is your practice. The great challenge and the great opportunity is what you do in the moment you notice the mind has slipped away. Do you react with the second arrow of frustration? Or do you meet this wandering with the gentle wisdom of a compassionate observer? To cultivate this wisdom, it is helpful to use a powerful metaphor. See your mind as a vast, open, brilliant blue sky. This sky is your core of awareness, your true nature. It is inherently peaceful, spacious, and untouched. Thoughts, emotions, memories, and sensations are like clouds that drift across this sky. Some days, the sky is filled with dark, heavy storm clouds of anxiety or anger. They can block out the light and feel menacing and permanent. On other days, the sky has light, wispy, harmless clouds of random thoughts and daydreams that float by without much notice. And some days, there are beautiful, sunlit, puffy clouds of joy and happy memories. The clouds are constantly changing, constantly moving. But through it all, what is the one thing that remains constant and unchanged? The sky itself. The storm clouds may rage, but they do not stain or damage the sky. The beautiful clouds may appear, but the sky does not try to cling to them, knowing they too will pass. Our suffering begins with a case of mistaken identity. We forget that we are the sky. We believe we are the clouds. When a dark cloud of sadness appears, we point to it and say, "I am sad." We collapse our entire being into that single, temporary emotional weather pattern. When a flash of anger streaks across the mind, we say, "I am angry," and we become the storm. The spiritual path is a process of correcting this profound misunderstanding. It is the practice of shifting our identity from the fleeting clouds back to the vast, unchanging sky of awareness that holds them. It is learning to say, a cloud of sadness is passing through the sky of my mind. Or, I am aware of a feeling of anger arising. Can you feel the space that opens up with that simple shift in language? You are no longer the emotion. You are the loving, spacious witness of the emotion. This creates a space of freedom, a space where you are not tossed about by every mental weather pattern. You can watch the storm, feel its power, without being destroyed by it, knowing that sooner or later, the sky will be clear again. To help cultivate this new relationship with thought, we can use a simple and gentle technique often called noting or labeling. When you are resting with your breath, and you notice you've been carried away by a thought, you don't need to scold yourself. You simply, gently, and silently apply a soft label to the experience. If you find yourself rehearsing a conversation for tomorrow, you can just note, planning. If you are caught in a loop of worry, you can note, worrying. If a memory of a vacation appears, remembering. If you are annoyed by a sound from outside, hearing. The label is not meant to be a harsh judgment, but a soft acknowledgement, like a feather touching a soap bubble. It recognizes the thought for what it is, an impersonal, mental event, without getting lost in the specific details of its story. The purpose of the note is simply to make you aware of what is happening in your mind. And once you have made the note, the instruction is always the same. With infinite gentleness, you guide your attention back to your anchor, back to the physical sensation of the breath. The breath is your home base. You go away on a journey of thought. You realize you are lost. You note where you have been, and you gently return home. In this practice of noting and returning, there are three fundamental principles that protect you from falling back into struggle. The first is no judgment. We have a tendency to classify our thoughts as good or bad. We think a memory of helping a friend is a good thought, and a surge of irritation is a bad thought. In this practice, we let go of that classification. They are all just clouds. A dark cloud is not morally worse than a white cloud. They are both just condensed water vapor. Similarly, a thought of anger and a thought of love are both just energy patterns in the mind. The moment we judge a thought as bad, we have created a new conflict, a new cloud of judgment. So we observe them all with an even, compassionate neutrality. The second principle is no suppression. When a particularly painful or anxious thought arises, our instinct is to push it away, to force it out of our minds. But as you may have noticed, this never works. It is like trying to hold a beach ball underwater. The moment you relax your effort, it bursts to the surface with even greater force. The practice here is one of radical allowance. You let the scary thought be there, in the vast sky of your awareness. You don't have to serve it tea, but you allow it to exist. You give it space, and you will discover that when you stop fighting it, it loses its power and eventually dissolves on its own. The third principle is no clinging. Sometimes, a very pleasant cloud will appear, a wonderful daydream, a sweet memory. The instinct here is to grab onto it, to follow it, to get lost in its story. This is also a form of bondage. The practice is the same. Note it, daydreaming, or pleasure, and gently return to the breath. Peace is found not just in letting go of what is painful, but also in letting go of what is pleasant, in resting in the simple balance of the present moment. It is crucial to understand that the goal of this practice is not to create a mind that is empty of all thought. This is one of the most common and damaging myths about meditation. A living mind will produce thoughts, just as a healthy stomach produces digestive acids. To demand an empty mind is to ask for the impossible, and it will only lead to frustration and a sense of failure. The goal is not an empty mind, but a free mind, a mind that is no longer pushed and pulled by its own creations. It is the difference between being a small boat tossed helplessly on a stormy sea and being the lighthouse keeper, watching the waves crash from a place of unshakable stability. You still see the waves, you feel their spray, but you are not the boat, you are the lighthouse. So when you lie down tonight, do not expect your mind to be silent. Expect the clouds to come. See each one as an opportunity to practice recognition, to practice gentleness, to practice letting go, and to practice returning again and again to the quiet, faithful rhythm of your breath. And as you become more skilled at observing the weather of your mind, you may start to notice where that weather makes landfall, where the rain of anxiety and the winds of stress actually impact the landscape of your physical body. This gentle turning of awareness from the mind to the body is our next step on the path. The practice of watching your thoughts as clouds in the sky of the mind brings a profound sense of space and freedom. But the weather of the mind is never a purely abstract event. Every thought, every emotion leaves a footprint. Every surge of anxiety, every wave of frustration, every moment of clenching against reality sends a ripple through your nervous system. The body, in its deep and honest wisdom, keeps the score. It is the physical landscape where the mental weather makes landfall. The unspoken anger from a conversation yesterday may now be living as a tightness in your jaw. The weight of your responsibilities might have settled into your shoulders, pulling them forward into a permanent posture of defense. The quiet, background hum of anxiety often resides as a knot in the pit of your stomach. Your body is a living history of your emotional life, a map of all the tensions you have carried, often without even realizing it. To engage in the body scan is to learn to read this map, not with judgment, but with the gentle curiosity of a kind explorer. It is an act of profound listening, of turning towards the body and its messages with compassion, allowing it to finally release the burdens it has been so faithfully holding for you. This practice is not about trying to fix or change anything. Just as with the breath and with thoughts, the primary instruction is simply to notice, to feel, and to allow. As you lie there, let go of the focused attention on the breath and allow your awareness to gently expand, to fill the entire landscape of your body. Feel the simple, physical facts of your existence in this moment. Feel the weight of your body pressing down into the mattress. Notice the points of contact, the places where you can feel the support of the bed beneath you, your heels, your calves, your back, your shoulders, your head. Feel the air on your skin. Simply rest in this global sense of the body as a whole for just a few moments. Now, we will begin a gentle journey. Let your awareness travel, as if on a soft beam of light, all the way down to your left foot. Bring your full attention just to the toes of your left foot. You do not need to move them or wiggle them. Simply bring your mind there and see what sensations are present. You might feel a sense of warmth or coolness. You might notice a slight tingling or the feeling of the fabric of a sock or a sheet against them. You might feel nothing at all, a kind of numbness, and that is perfectly fine. The absence of sensation is also a sensation to be noticed. There is no right or wrong way to feel. You are just exploring what is true in this moment. Now, allow your awareness to expand, to include the sole of your foot, the heel, the top of the foot. Hold your entire left foot in this gentle, caring awareness. Notice any tiredness, any aches, any sensations at all. From the foot, slowly begin to travel upwards. Bring your attention to your left ankle, your shin, and your calf muscle. Then, move to your knee, front and back. Continue up into the large muscles of your left thigh, all the way up to your hip. Just feel whatever is there to be felt, without needing it to be different. And as you rest your attention on each part, you might try a gentle experiment. Imagine that your breath can travel to that part of your body. Imagine your in-breath flowing down into your left leg, bringing a sense of spaciousness and fresh oxygen. And imagine the out-breath as a gentle invitation for any tension to soften, to dissolve, to flow out and away. Now, gently shift your awareness over to the toes of your right foot and begin the same kind and curious journey up your right leg, the foot, the ankle, the lower leg, the knee, the thigh. Take your time. There is nowhere to get to, nothing to achieve. The journey itself is the destination. Now, bring your awareness to the pelvic region, the base of your torso. This is an area where we can hold deep-seated tension. Simply rest your awareness here with kindness. Then, move up into your abdomen. This is often where we feel anxiety and fear. Notice the gentle, natural movement here. As you breathe, let the belly be soft. Don't try to hold it in. Let the out-breath be a soft release for this entire area. Then, guide your attention to your lower back, another common storehouse of stress. Just feel the sensations there. Again, if there is discomfort, the instruction is not to fight it. The instruction is to meet the discomfort with a soft, allowing awareness. Breathe into it. From there, expand your awareness to include your entire chest area. Feel your heartbeat, if you can. Feel the gentle expansion of your ribcage with each inhale. Now, bring your attention down to your hands. Start with the fingers of your left hand, one by one, then the palm, the back of the hand, the wrist. Move up the forearm to the elbow and into the upper arm, all the way to your left shoulder. The shoulders are the coat hangers of our stress. We carry the weight of the world here. Let your awareness settle deeply into your shoulder. And with each out-breath, see if you can invite it to soften, to let go of its burden just a little bit. Then repeat this journey for your right hand and arm, traveling slowly, kindly, from your fingertips up to your right shoulder. Finally, guide your awareness to your neck and throat. Let the muscles on the back of your neck be soft. Allow your throat to be open and relaxed. Then, bring your attention to your face, an area of incredible, subtle tension. Notice your jaw. Is it clenched? See if you can create a little space between your top and bottom teeth. Let your tongue rest comfortably in your mouth. Let your lips be soft. Notice the tiny muscles around your eyes. Invite them to be smooth and at ease. Feel your temples, your forehead. Let any furrows of worry dissolve. And lastly, bring your attention to the very top of your head, your scalp. Then, for a final moment, let your awareness expand once more to encompass your entire body, from the tips of your toes to the top of your head, as one single, unified field of sensation. Perhaps you feel a gentle tingling, a sense of warmth, a feeling of aliveness. You are resting in your body, at home in your own physical being. Think of your body as a garden. Over the years, without mindful tending, some parts of the soil can become compacted and hard. Weeds of chronic tension can grow. A frustrated gardener might attack this garden, angrily yanking at the weeds and cursing the hard soil, only making things worse. A wise gardener, however, acts with compassion. They gently feel the soil. They acknowledge the presence of a weed without anger. They understand its roots. With care, they aerate the soil. They provide water. They create the conditions for the garden to find its own natural harmony. Your loving, non-judgmental awareness is the hand of the wise gardener. Each time you bring your attention to a tense shoulder or a clenched jaw, you are gently loosening the soil. Each time you breathe into a place of discomfort, you are watering it with compassion. You are not forcing relaxation. You are creating the conditions in which relaxation can naturally arise. We have now journeyed from the mind to the body. We have learned to find an anchor in the breath, to watch our thoughts without attachment, and now to listen to and soften the physical vessel of our lives. We have been working primarily with creating a state of calm neutrality, of peaceful acceptance. We have been tending the soil. The question that naturally follows is, can we do more? Can we not only remove the weeds, but also actively plant flowers? Can we cultivate positive, healing states of mind and offer them not only to ourselves, but to the world? The answer is a resounding yes. And this takes us to the beautiful, heart-opening practice of loving kindness. We have journeyed inward, creating a space of quiet observation. We have found the anchor of the breath. We have learned to see our thoughts as passing clouds. And we have tended to the landscape of the body with gentle awareness. We have, in essence, quieted the winds and calmed the seas. The space we have created is one of peaceful neutrality. This is a profound achievement in itself, but the wisdom of the masters invites us to go one step further. It asks, now that we have prepared the soil of the mind, can we actively plant flowers? Can we cultivate a quality of heart that not only brings peace, but also brings warmth, healing, and a deep sense of nourishment. This is the practice of metta, an ancient word that translates as loving kindness, unconditional friendliness, or gentle affection. It is the art of actively generating a feeling of warmth and goodwill, and offering it, first and foremost, to the person who often receives it the least, ourselves. For many of us, this is the most difficult step on the entire journey. We may find it relatively easy to wish others well, to feel compassion for a friend in pain, or to feel affection for a child or a pet. But to turn that same warm regard inward can feel awkward, unnatural, even selfish. We live with an inner critic, a relentless narrator who has been documenting our perceived flaws and failures for our entire lives. In the deep silence of a sleepless night, that voice can become deafening. It is the voice that says, "You are failing at this. You can't even do something as simple as sleep. You are weak." It is the voice of judgment, of shame, of not enough. And the practice of metta, is a direct and powerful antidote to this inner tyrant. It is a way of consciously cultivating a different voice, an inner ally, a friend who offers the unconditional acceptance we so desperately need, especially when we feel we deserve it the least. It is the radical act of offering yourself the same kindness you would offer to a beloved friend who was suffering. The practice begins not by forcing a feeling, but by planting a seed. We use a set of simple, classic phrases, repeated silently like a lullaby for the heart. These are not affirmations we are trying to bully ourselves into believing. They are wishes, sacred intentions, gentle offerings. To begin, it can be helpful to first connect with the feeling itself. Allow your awareness to rest in the center of your chest, your heart space, and see if you can call to mind an image of someone or something for whom you feel a natural, uncomplicated affection. It could be a beloved pet, the memory of how it felt to hold them. It could be a small child, innocent and deserving of all the happiness in the world. It could be a cherished mentor or a dear friend. Don't analyze it. Just allow yourself to feel that spark of warmth, that simple, unconflicted feeling of goodwill. Let that feeling of warmth gather in your chest. Now, here is the gentle, courageous turn. See if you can offer that same feeling, that same warmth to yourself. As you are lying there, in all your perceived imperfection, in your struggle and your wakefulness, extend that kindness inward, and then begin to silently offer the phrases to yourself. Let them be soft, unhurried. The first phrase is, "May I be safe." This is a wish for safety from all outer harm. But more profoundly, it is a wish for safety from inner harm, safety from the sharp arrows of your own self-judgment, safety from the terrifying stories spun by your own fear. It is a wish to find sanctuary within your own being. Silently repeat it to yourself, letting the intention soak in. May I be safe. The second phrase is, "May I be happy." This is not a wish for fleeting pleasure or constant excitement. It is a wish for a deep and authentic happiness, the kind of contentment that comes from a heart at peace. It is a genuine wish for your own well-being, an acknowledgement that you, like all beings, deserve to be happy. May I be happy. The third phrase is, "May I be healthy." This is a wish for the health of your body, for it to be strong and free from pain. And it is a wish for the health of your mind, for it to be clear, balanced, and free from torment. It is an offering of care to the whole of your being, both body and mind. May I be healthy. And the final phrase, perhaps the most poignant for a sleepless night, is, "May I live with ease." Ease is the opposite of struggle. It is the ability to move through life with all its challenges and difficulties, with a sense of grace and acceptance. It is a wish to be free from the inner friction, the constant fighting against reality. It is a wish to float rather than to thrash. To lie in bed, awake, and to wish for ease is a profound act of letting go of the war with sleeplessness. May I live with ease. Continue to repeat these phrases gently, allowing their rhythm to soothe you. May I be safe. May I be happy. May I be healthy. May I live with ease. Some nights, the feeling may come easily. Other nights, the words may feel hollow and mechanical. That is okay. The practice is in the patient, gentle repetition. You are watering the seeds. Some days you see the sprout. Other days, you just trust that something is happening beneath the soil. There is a powerful story from the life of the Buddha that illustrates the transformative power of this practice. A raging, drunken elephant named Nalagiri was let loose with the intention of trampling the Buddha to death. As the terrifying beast charged, everyone scattered in fear. The Buddha's disciples begged him to run, but he simply stood his ground, perfectly still, and radiated a powerful, unconditional wave of metta, of loving kindness, directly at the charging elephant. The story says that as the elephant entered this field of immense goodwill, its rage began to melt away, its steps slowed, its eyes softened, and by the time it reached the Buddha, it was completely calm, and it knelt down peacefully before him. In the middle of the night, our own mind, rampaging with anxious thoughts and terrifying fears, is our Nalagiri. We try to outrun it, to fight it, to subdue it with force, but this only makes it more enraged. The wisdom of the masters shows us another way. We can stand our ground and meet the rampaging mind, not with aggression, but with the steady, gentle, and transformative power of loving kindness directed towards ourselves. This is not just a poetic idea. Generating these states of warmth and safety has a direct effect on our physiology. It helps to shift our nervous system out of the fight or flight mode of the sympathetic system and into the rest and digest mode of the parasympathetic system. It is a conscious way of signaling to our own body at the deepest level that we are safe, and safety is the soil from which sleep naturally grows. This practice of metta creates a foundation of inner warmth and resilience. It is a profound resource to have in any moment of difficulty, but sometimes, even with a heart full of goodwill, a very specific and powerful fear can arise that feels overwhelming. A general wish for safety might not feel like enough to meet a specific terror about your health, your family, or your future. This calls for a more focused engagement, a way to take the general compassion we have just cultivated and bring it into direct relationship with one of our most challenging emotions. It requires us to turn towards fear itself, not as an enemy to be vanquished, but as a messenger to be understood. This brings us to the courageous practice of befriending our fear. We have warmed the heart by planting the seeds of loving kindness, creating a foundation of inner safety and goodwill. This metta is a gentle, radiant sun, capable of melting away the subtle frosts of anxiety and self-criticism. But sometimes, in the dead of night, a different kind of weather arises. It is not a frost, but a shard of ice. A sudden, sharp, piercing spike of fear. It can be a vague, nameless dread, or a very specific terror about our health, our finances, our loved ones, or the state of the world. In these moments, fear can feel so powerful, so all-consuming, that it can seem to extinguish the gentle warmth of metta entirely. Our primal instinct, when confronted with this feeling, is to do one of two things. We either fight it, trying to reason it away, or suppress it with brute mental force, or we flee from it, desperately seeking any distraction to avoid its icy touch. But as we have learned, both fighting and fleeing only give the object of our struggle more power. There is a third path, a courageous and profoundly healing one. It is the path of turning towards our fear, not as an enemy to be conquered, but as a misunderstood friend, to be welcomed and heard. Fear, at its core, is almost always a story about the future. It is a projection, a mental movie, of a painful event that has not yet happened and may never happen. The mind, in its desire to protect us, spins a narrative of catastrophe, and in the dark, silent laboratory of a sleepless night, our mind can be a masterful storyteller, weaving tales of such vividness and terror that our body responds as if they are happening right now. Our heart races, our palms sweat, our stomach churns. We are physically reacting to a ghost, a phantom conjured by our own imagination. The practice of befriending fear begins with the radical act of seeing it for what it is, a powerful energy, a visitor in our awareness, but not our master. It is a cloud, perhaps the darkest storm cloud we have ever seen, but we are still the sky. The first step in this practice is to drop all resistance. The moment you recognize that sharp, cold feeling, instead of tensing up and saying, "Oh no, not this," see if you can soften around it. You can even say silently to yourself, "Fear is here. I see you. You are welcome." This act alone is revolutionary. You are ending the war before it begins. You are laying down your arms at the feet of the tiger. The second step is to locate the fear in your body. Fear is never just an abstract idea. It is a physical, visceral experience. So, ask yourself with gentle curiosity, where does this fear live in me right now? Is it a hollow, cold feeling in your stomach? Is it a crushing tightness in your chest that makes it hard to breathe? Is it a frantic, fluttering energy behind your ribs? Is it a lump in your throat? Be specific. By grounding the overwhelming emotion in a specific physical sensation, you make it more manageable. It ceases to be a monstrous, all-encompassing fog and becomes a localized, tangible feeling. Once you have located it, the third step is to breathe with it. Do not try to breathe it away. Instead, imagine your breath gently surrounding the sensation. If the fear is a tight knot in your chest, imagine your in-breath flowing into the area all around that knot, creating space. And imagine your out-breath softening the edges of the knot, just a little. You are not demanding that it dissolve. You are simply keeping it company with your breath. You are bringing a warm, spacious presence to a cold, contracted part of yourself. The fourth step is the most intimate. It is to investigate the fear with compassion. As you continue to breathe with the sensation, you can begin to ask it gentle questions, as if you were speaking to a small, frightened child. Silently, in your heart, you can ask, "What are you trying to protect me from? What are you so afraid will happen? What do you need to feel safe?" Do not look for an answer in words. Listen for the answer in the feelings, the images, the deep, unspoken anxieties that lie beneath the surface. You may discover that the fear, in its own misguided way, is trying to help. It is a primitive alarm system that is stuck in the on position. By asking what it needs, you are changing your relationship to it, from one of adversarial conflict to one of caring curiosity. You are treating it not as a monster, but as a wounded part of yourself that needs compassion. There is a beautiful Zen story that captures the essence of this practice. A master was walking through the mountains when he came face to face with a magnificent, ferocious tiger. The tiger let out a roar and crouched, ready to spring. The master, instead of panicking or reaching for a weapon, simply stood his ground, looked the tiger directly in the eye, and gave a slow, respectful bow. He then said, with a calm and genuine voice, "Greetings, my friend. It is an honor to meet you." The tiger, who was expecting a reaction of terror or aggression, was completely disarmed. It paused, tilted its head in confusion, and the ferocity in its eyes was replaced by a look of curiosity. After a moment of silent regard, the tiger turned and padded silently back into the forest. Our fear is that tiger. When we meet it with our own aggression, by fighting it and hating it, we are roaring back at it, and it only becomes more ferocious. When we meet it with terror, by fleeing from it and trying to escape, we trigger its predatory instinct to chase. But when we can stand our ground, turn towards it, and meet it with a calm, steady, and even respectful presence, it loses its power over us. We are acknowledging its strength, but we are not feeding its aggression. Underpinning this entire practice is the deep wisdom of impermanence. The sensation of fear, no matter how intense and overwhelming it feels, is not a solid, permanent entity. It is a wave of biochemical and electrical energy passing through your nervous system. It has a beginning, a middle, and an end. The problem is that we usually interrupt this natural life cycle. Just as the wave begins to rise, we feed it with more fearful stories, which creates another wave and another, until we feel like we are drowning in a tsunami of our own making. The practice of befriending fear is the art of allowing the wave to run its natural course. You feel it arise. You stay present with the physical sensation as it peaks, and you notice, as you continue to just watch it, without adding new fuel, that it inevitably begins to subside. You are learning to surf the wave of your own emotion, rather than being pulled under by it. You are discovering that you are not the wave. You are the deep, calm ocean beneath. This practice of turning towards fear allows us to work with the anxieties that face the future. But often, the fuel for these future fears comes from the unprocessed residue of our past. The day that has just ended, with its small failures, its unresolved conversations, and its lingering frustrations, often follows us into the night. We carry this baggage with us to bed, and it becomes the kindling for the fires of our midnight worries. Therefore, to truly prepare the ground for rest, we must learn not only to befriend the fears of tomorrow, but also to consciously and skillfully let go of the day that is already gone. This brings us to the gentle and essential ritual of completion. We have turned and faced the tiger of fear, learning to meet its terrifying roar with the quiet strength of compassionate presence. This is a profound skill for dealing with the anxieties that look toward the future. But often, the tiger of the future is fed by the ghosts of the past, not the distant past of our childhoods, but the immediate, tangible past of the day that has just ended. The awkward conversation at work, the sharp word we said to a loved one, the task we failed to complete, the email we wish we hadn't sent. These small events, these bits of unfinished business, follow us into the sanctuary of our bedroom. And in the silence of the night, the mind, like a restless detective, replays them over and over, trying to solve them, to fix them, to understand them. It seeks a sense of completion that it never received. Without a conscious act of closure, the mind will continue this work all night long, transforming our bed from a place of rest into a courtroom where we are both prosecutor and defendant. The wisdom of the masters teaches us that to find peace in the night, we must first make peace with the day. This requires a gentle, intentional ritual of completion, a way of consciously declaring the day is done, so the mind can finally be at rest. There is a classic Zen story that perfectly illustrates this human tendency to carry what is already over. Two monks, one senior and one junior, were on a long journey. They came to a river where the bridge had been washed away. A beautiful young woman stood there, distressed, as she was unable to cross the muddy, rushing water in her fine clothes. Without a word, the senior monk, who was bound by strict vows never to touch a woman, walked over to her, lifted her into his arms, carried her across the turbulent river, and set her down gently on the other side. He then continued on his way. The junior monk was utterly scandalized. He was speechless with shock and indignation. For the next several hours of their silent walk, his mind was a storm of judgment. How could he do that? He broke his sacred vows. What a terrible example. He is a disgrace. The thoughts churned and churned, building a heavy pressure of resentment inside him. Finally, unable to bear it any longer, he burst out, "Brother, I cannot stay silent. What you did back there was completely inappropriate. You touched a woman. You violated our most sacred precepts." The senior monk stopped, looked at his agitated companion with a calm, kind expression, and said softly, "Brother, I put that woman down by the river hours ago. Are you still carrying her? In our own lives, every single night, we are the junior monk. The unresolved conflicts, the regrets, the irritations of the day are the woman we continue to carry long after the river has been crossed. We carry the weight of our boss's critical comment. We carry the sting of a thoughtless remark from our partner. We carry the frustration of a project that didn't go as planned. We arrive at our pillow, physically exhausted, but mentally and emotionally burdened by the heavy load of a day we refuse to put down. The ritual of completion is the conscious act of arriving at the riverbank of sleep and gently, deliberately setting our burdens down. This ritual is simple and can be done in just a few minutes as you settle in for the night. The first step is a gentle review of the day. Close your eyes and allow the events of the day to scroll through your mind, not with the sharp eye of a critic looking for flaws, but with the neutral curiosity of an observer. See yourself waking up, the morning routine, the interactions at work, the journey home, the evening meal. Watch it all unfold like a silent movie, without getting stuck on any particular scene. Just a quick, sweeping overview. The purpose is not to relive it, but simply to gather the threads of the day. The second step is to acknowledge what went well and what you have learned. Our minds have a powerful negativity bias. They are like Velcro for bad experiences and Teflon for good ones. We must consciously counteract this. Scan through your day again and deliberately pick out one or two things, no matter how small, that were positive. Perhaps it was a moment of connection with a colleague, the satisfaction of completing a difficult task, the simple pleasure of a good cup of coffee, or the beauty of the evening sky. Acknowledge it. Savor it for a moment. This cultivates a sense of gratitude and helps to balance the scales of the mind. Then, consider if there was a lesson learned. Perhaps a difficult interaction taught you something about patience, or a mistake revealed an area for growth. Seeing challenges as lessons reframes them from failures into opportunities. The third, and perhaps most powerful step, is the practice of forgiveness. This has two parts. First, bring to mind anyone who may have hurt, annoyed, or frustrated you during the day. See their face in your mind's eye, and silently, in your own heart, offer them your forgiveness. You can say something like, "I forgive you," I release the burden of my anger. This is not about condoning their behavior. It is a profoundly practical act of self-love. Holding on to resentment is like drinking poison and expecting the other person to die. Forgiveness is how you put down the poison. You are releasing yourself from the prison of your own bitterness. Then, you turn this forgiveness inward. This is often the hardest part. Bring to mind any mistakes you made today, any words you regret, any actions you wish you could take back, and offer yourself the same grace. You can say, I forgive myself for any harm I may have caused, knowingly or unknowingly. I did the best I could with the awareness and resources I had at that time. This releases the heavy chain of self-recrimination and regret. The final step is the declaration of closure. This is the moment you put the woman down by the river. Take a slow, deep breath in, and as you exhale, make a firm, conscious, and intentional declaration in your mind. You might say, the day is now complete, or I release this day with its triumphs and its challenges. It is over. Feel the meaning of these words. You are drawing a definitive line in the sand between the waking, active day and the sacred, restful night. You are giving your subconscious mind a direct and unequivocal command. The work of this day is done. It is time to let go. By practicing this simple ritual, you cease to be the junior monk. You learn the wisdom of the senior monk, the wisdom of leaving the past in the past. You arrive at your pillow not with a mind still churning with the day's unfinished business, but with a heart that is lighter, a conscience that is clearer, and a mind that has been given permission to enter the sanctuary of rest. You create a clean slate. We have now learned to find peace with the future by befriending our fears, and to find peace with the past by releasing the day. This brings our awareness into a profound focus on the present. But even our present moment worries can feel enormous, all-consuming. This begs the question, is there a practice, a perspective, that can put all of our daily struggles into a context so vast that they shrink to their true, manageable size? This leads us from the practicalities of the day to the deepest wisdom of existence itself, to the profound contemplation of impermanence. We have learned to make peace with the day that is past and to befriend the fears of the day to come. We have created a small clearing of peace in the vast wilderness of the mind. And yet, even in this clearing, anxieties can still take root. A worry about our career, a conflict in a relationship, a concern for our health, these can grow so large in the darkness that they fill our entire inner landscape, seeming like absolute, insurmountable realities. To deal with these larger, more persistent forms of suffering, we need a practice that doesn't just clear the weeds, but changes the very soil in which they grow. We need a perspective so vast and so profound that it puts all of our personal dramas into their true, cosmic context. This is perhaps the most potent and most misunderstood practice in the Buddhist toolkit, Maranasati, the mindfulness of death and impermanence. In our modern culture, we treat death as a failure, a taboo subject to be avoided at all costs. To speak of it is considered morbid or depressing, but in the path of wisdom, the contemplation of our own mortality is seen as the ultimate source of liberation, perspective, and even joy. It is the master key that unlocks the chains of our smallest, most ego-driven anxieties. It is not about dwelling on loss, but about awakening to the fierce, brilliant preciousness of life itself. And the nightly act of falling asleep is our most intimate and recurring teacher of this profound truth. Every night, we are invited to practice a little death, When you surrender to sleep, the conscious self, the I, that worries, that strives, that identifies with a name and a history temporarily dissolves. You let go of all control. The world and its affairs continue entirely without your management. And each morning that you wake, you experience a small resurrection. You are granted another day, a fresh beginning. To view sleep, not as a performance to be achieved, but as a nightly rehearsal in the art of letting go, changes everything. It transforms your bed from a stage of potential failure into an altar of surrender. The formal practice of this contemplation is simple, yet its effects are boundless. As you are lying in bed, wrapped in the stillness of the night, allow yourself to gently pose a fundamental question. Do not force it. Do not try to generate a feeling of panic. Just let the question arise softly in the mind. If I knew, with certainty, that this was the last night of my life, how would my relationship to this present moment change? If these were your final, quiet hours, would you spend them agonizing over the presentation you have to give next week? Would you dedicate this precious, fading time to replaying an argument, proving to yourself that you were right? Would the fear of what someone else thinks of you still hold any power? In the clear, unwavering light of this ultimate truth, our priorities are radically reordered. The intricate dramas of the ego, the desperate need for validation, the anxieties about accumulating more wealth or status, all of the things that consume our daylight hours, are revealed to be what they are: fleeting, insubstantial, and ultimately unimportant. The things that we carry as massive, unbearable burdens are suddenly seen to be as light as dust. Hold one of your current worries in your mind. See it clearly. Perhaps it is a deep-seated anxiety about your financial future. Now, hold that worry up against the vast, silent backdrop of eternity. Place it beside the truth that this body, this mind, this very sense of self, will one day cease to be. Does the worry still maintain its terrifying grip? Or does it shrink, becoming a small, almost insignificant detail in the grand, mysterious tapestry of your existence? This practice is not meant to invalidate your struggles, but to grant them their proper proportion. It is an act of zooming out, so far out that you can see the whole map, not just the one difficult street you find yourself on tonight. The Buddha taught that to gain the full benefit of this wisdom, we should not merely contemplate that death will come one day. He encouraged his monks to practice with a searing urgency, to be mindful that death could arrive between this single exhale and the next inhale. This is not a tool for creating terror. It is a tool for creating absolute presence. When you are aware that this breath could be your last, you are far less likely to waste it on petty anger or baseless anxiety. You are more likely to fill it with a sense of gratitude. The heart softens. The need to be right dissolves. The desire to hold on to grievances melts away. If this were your last night, your last hour, would you not wish to fill it with thoughts of love, of forgiveness, of a deep and silent thanks for the bittersweet gift of having lived at all? This contemplation transforms the character of your mind. The contracted, self-obsessed mind begins to relax and open into a state of generous, expansive peace. The great paradox of contemplating death is that it makes you more fully alive. When you are no longer sleepwalking through your days, assuming you have an infinite number of them, you begin to treat each one as the miracle it is. You taste your food with more attention. You listen to your loved ones with more presence. You see the beauty of the ordinary world with eyes that are finally open. You forgive more easily. You love more deeply, and you are less willing to postpone joy. By practicing this at night, you are not inviting depression. You are setting the stage for a more vibrant and meaningful tomorrow. You are turning the dark, lonely hours of wakefulness into a profound philosophical retreat, a sacred time to reconnect with what truly matters. This practice of maranasati, of touching the great mystery of life and death, is perhaps the most sacred internal work we can do. It is an act of stripping away all that is false and coming home to what is real. And such a sacred practice deserves a sacred space. If our nightly rest is a rehearsal for the great letting go, if our bedroom is the chamber in which we perform these rituals of release, forgiveness, and profound contemplation, then how should we prepare that space? Should it not be treated with the respect we would afford a temple or a sanctuary? Should it not be a clean, quiet, and uncluttered space, free from the profane distractions of the world of work and worry? The environment we create on the outside has a deep and subtle effect on the environment we can cultivate on the inside. This brings us to the practical and essential art of creating a physical sanctuary for sleep. We have journeyed to the very heart of existence, holding our transient lives against the vast backdrop of eternity. In doing so, we have seen our most persistent worries shrink to their true and manageable size. This practice of contemplating impermanence is profound, sacred work. It is the deepest form of mental and spiritual housekeeping we can undertake, and such sacred work deserves a sacred space. Our environment is not a passive backdrop to our lives. It is an active participant in shaping our state of mind. A chaotic, cluttered room will inevitably whisper messages of chaos and clutter to our minds. A serene, ordered, and purposeful space will whisper its own message of serenity and peace. For too long, we have allowed the most sacred room in our home, the bedroom, to become a chaotic, multi-purpose storage unit for the stresses of modern life. It is time to reclaim it. It is time to transform our bedroom from a place of distraction into a true sanctuary for rest. Consider for a moment a traditional Zen monastery. What are its defining qualities? There is a profound sense of cleanliness and order. There is an uncluttered simplicity. Each object has its place and its purpose. There is a palpable silence, a quality of quiet that is not empty, but full of peaceful potential. This external environment is not accidental. It is meticulously crafted with a single purpose in mind: to support the inner work of meditation. The external order is designed to cultivate internal order. The external silence makes it easier to find the silence within. The simplicity of the room helps to simplify the mind. We can take this ancient wisdom and apply it directly to the space where we perform our own sacred, nightly practice of rest. Your bedroom can become your personal monastery, a sanctuary dedicated to the deep and healing work of letting go. To begin this transformation, we must first honestly assess how we have been treating this space. For many of us, the bedroom has become the unofficial annex of the office, with a laptop open on the bed and work emails being answered just moments before we try to sleep. It has become a secondary movie theater, with a television flickering in the corner, filling our minds with violent or dramatic imagery right before we close our eyes. It has become a diner, with meals eaten hastily while distracted by a screen. And most pervasively, it has become the command center for our digital lives, with the smartphone resting on the nightstand like a loyal but treacherous sentinel. It is the last thing we look at before we turn off the light, and the first thing we reach for upon waking. We have trained our brains, through relentless repetition, to associate our place of rest with work, entertainment, social anxiety, and a constant stream of information. Then we wonder why our brains refuse to power down when we want them to. We have invited the entire frantic, chaotic world into our bed with us. The first and most powerful step in reclaiming your sanctuary is to establish a new and uncompromising rule. Your bedroom is for two things only: sleep and intimacy. That is its sole, dedicated purpose. This means creating new habits. Work is done elsewhere. Tense phone calls are taken in another room. The nightly news is watched in the living room. By creating this clear boundary, you begin a powerful process of reconditioning. Over time, your brain will begin to build a new and powerful association. Just as the monastery's silence invites the mind to quiet down, the simple act of walking into your bedroom will begin to trigger a cascade of relaxation responses in your body and mind. The space itself will become a signal to your entire being that it is time to let go, to soften, to prepare for rest. This new rule requires the unapologetic exile of the glowing rectangles. The television, the laptop, and most importantly, the smartphone must be removed from the sanctuary. Their presence is a twofold sabotage. First, there is the psychological sabotage. Your phone is a portal. It is a direct link to the demands of your boss, the anxieties of the world, and the carefully curated highlight reels of other people's lives that can so easily trigger feelings of comparison and inadequacy. Its mere presence on your nightstand is a silent promise of distraction, a temptation to take one last scroll, to check one last email. It keeps your mind tethered to the world of doing, preventing it from surrendering to the world of being. Removing it from the room is a powerful act of claiming your right to be unavailable, to be at peace. The second sabotage is physiological. Our bodies have an ancient internal clock that is regulated by light. The blue frequency light emitted in high concentrations from our screens is a direct mimic of the light of the midday sun. When you stare into a screen at 10 o'clock at night, you are sending a direct biological signal to a gland in your brain that says, "It's daytime, stay awake." Suppress the production of melatonin. Melatonin is the hormone that tells your body it is time for sleep. Staring at your phone in bed is the biological equivalent of drinking a cup of coffee and then wondering why you feel awake. Once the electronics are gone, turn your attention to the physical atmosphere. There is a deep truth in the Zen, saying that cleaning your room is cleaning your mind. A floor littered with clothes, a desk piled high with papers, a nightstand cluttered with objects. This visual static creates a subtle but persistent agitation in the mind. It whispers that things are unresolved, that tasks are undone. The practice of creating a simple, clean, and uncluttered space is a form of active meditation. The act of folding your clothes, of putting things away, of dusting a surface, can be done with mindfulness. As you create order in your room, you are creating order in your mind. You are letting your room breathe so that you can breathe more easily within it. Finally, consider the other senses. Replace harsh, bright overhead lights with soft, warm-toned lamps. This gentle, amber-hued light signals to your brain that the day is ending, and it helps to facilitate the natural production of melatonin. Ensure the room is a comfortable, cool temperature, as research shows this is most conducive to deep sleep and cultivate silence. If your environment is noisy, consider earplugs or a gentle white noise machine to mask the intrusive sounds of the outside world. Think of yourself as a master artist, carefully crafting an environment with one specific goal: to invite the soul to a place of deep and profound rest. This is not about expensive decorations or trendy interior design. It is about intention. It is an act of deep self-respect, a declaration that your rest is sacred and that you are worthy of a beautiful, peaceful space in which to heal and rejuvenate. You are building a harbor for your spirit, We have now constructed our external sanctuary, a clean and quiet harbor for the night. But the state of the ship we bring into that harbor is just as important. A calm port cannot fix a broken engine. The habits we practice during the day, the fuel we put into our bodies, and the way we use them have a profound impact on our ability to rest at night. This brings our awareness back from the outer world of our environment to the inner world of our daily actions, specifically to the mindful cultivation of our physical well-being. We have constructed our sanctuary, a clean, quiet, and sacred space dedicated to the profound act of rest. But a peaceful harbor cannot, by itself, calm a ship that arrives with a storm raging within its own hull. The quality of our sleep is not determined in the moments after our head hits the pillow. It is woven from the threads of the entire day that preceded it. Our journey to a peaceful night does not begin at bedtime. It begins with the first mindful actions of our morning. We have explored the mind, but the mind does not float in a vacuum. It is intimately, inextricably connected to the body. To create the conditions for mental peace, we must also cultivate physical harmony. This harmony is found by returning to two of our most fundamental daily activity: seating and moving, and transforming them from unconscious habits into acts of mindful self-care. Our bodies are creatures of rhythm, ancient cycles of energy and rest, honed over millennia. Yet, modern life wages a constant war against these natural rhythms. We eat erratically, we move very little or in jarring bursts, and we ignore the body's subtle signals until they become screams of pain or exhaustion. The practices of mindful eating and mindful movement are not about adding more complicated rules to your life. They are about listening, about returning to the innate wisdom of your own body and learning to honor its needs, creating a foundation of physical balance that will naturally lead to deeper, more restorative sleep. Let us first consider the act of eating. For most of us, meals are rushed, unconscious affairs. We eat while standing over the kitchen sink, while driving, while scrolling through our phones, or while watching television. We do not taste our food so much as we simply transfer it into our bodies as fuel. We have lost the sacred connection to the nourishment that sustains us. Mindful eating is the gentle path back. It begins before you even take a bite. It begins by looking at your food. Notice the colors, the shapes, the textures. Consider for a moment the miracle of its journey to your plateeth sun, the soil, the rain, the work of countless hands. This simple act of appreciation can shift your state from one of mindless consumption to one of gentle gratitude. Then, as you take the first bite, do so with your full attention. Resist the urge to immediately prepare the next forkful. Simply close your eyes for a moment and chew. Chew slowly. Notice the explosion of flavor: sweet, salty, sour, bitter. Notice the textures, the crunch, the softness, the creaminess. You may be astonished to find how much you have been missing in your food. As you continue your meal, bring this same quality of quiet attention to the act of eating. And just as importantly, bring your awareness to your body. Learn to listen for its subtle signals of satiety. Our bodies are wise. They know precisely when they have had enough. But we have trained ourselves to ignore this wisdom, eating until we are uncomfortably stuffed, a state that places a heavy burden on our digestive system and makes restful sleep nearly impossible. To eat mindfully is to know when to begin, but it is also to know, with grace and respect for your body, when to stop. This mindfulness also extends to what we eat and drink, especially as the day draws to a close. Stimulants like caffeine are powerful disruptors of our natural sleep cycles. A cup of coffee, even one enjoyed in the early afternoon, contains a chemical whose effects can linger in our system for up to 8 or 10 hours. For a sensitive individual, that 3 o'clock coffee is still creating a subtle but persistent state of mental and physical alertness at 11 o'clock at night. Similarly, a heavy meal or the consumption of alcohol close to bedtime can feel like it induces drowsiness, but it severely disrupts the architecture of our sleep later in the night. It prevents us from entering the deepest, most restorative stages of rest, as the body is forced to direct its energy toward the hard work of digestion or metabolizing toxins. Honoring your body means giving it the simple, whole foods it needs, and giving it the time it needs to process them, allowing it to be quiet and still when you enter the sanctuary of the night. The second pillar of physical harmony is mindful movement. Here we encounter a great paradox. To be truly, deeply still at night, the body must have the opportunity to move during the day. A body that has been sedentary for hours, hunched over a desk or slouched on a sofa, accumulates a kind of stagnant, restless energy. This pent-up energy doesn't simply vanish at bedtime. It manifests as an inability to get comfortable, a physical fidgeting, and a mind that feels agitated and antsy. Movement is how the body discharges this tension and finds its natural equilibrium. Mindful movement is not necessarily about strenuous, heart-pounding exercise, though that has its place. It is about the quality of awareness you bring to the act of moving. One of the most profound and accessible practices is walking meditation. The next time you walk, even if it is just from your car to your front door, try this experiment. Slow down your pace just slightly and bring your full attention to the soles of your feet. Feel the sensation of one foot lifting from the ground. Feel it move through space. Feel the heel connecting with the ground again, then the ball of the foot, then the toes. Then feel the other foot lift. Simply walk, with your full attention resting on this chain of physical sensations. You are not walking to get somewhere. You are walking just to walk. This practice transforms a simple, everyday activity into a powerful anchor for the present moment. In the evenings, gentle stretching or restorative yoga can be a beautiful way to consciously release the specific tensions that have built up in the body throughout the day, preparing it for a state of deep relaxation. There is an old story of a master woodcarver who was renowned for the serene and lifelike quality of his creations. A student asked him, "Master, what is the secret to your art?" The carver replied, "There is no secret. When I pick up my tool, the entire universe ceases to exist. There is only the wood in front of me. I feel its grain. I see its patterns. I listen to what it wants to become. My mind is not on the praise I will receive, nor the payment for my work. In that moment, there is only the wood, the tool, and the act of carving. And in that unity, the carving creates itself." This is the essence of mindfulness in action. When you eat, just eat. When you walk, just walk. When you work, just work. By bringing this single-pointed, non-judgmental attention to your daily activities, you are training your mind, moment by moment, to be present. A mind trained in presence during the day will not suddenly become a frantic, time-traveling monkey at night. We have now seen how to care for our outer sanctuary and how to honor the physical vessel of our body through mindful eating and movement. We are bringing a calmer, more balanced body into a calm, peaceful room. This is a tremendous foundation. Now, we must turn our attention to the final piece of the puzzle, the continuous cultivation of a peaceful and positive state of mind throughout the waking hours. This involves learning to consciously shift our mental focus away from the mind's natural tendency towards problems and complaints, and towards the vast and often overlooked landscape of what is good and true in our lives. This is the healing practice of gratitude. We have brought our journey home, from the vastness of the cosmos back to the intimate sanctuary of our own bedroom, and into the living vessel of our body. We have learned to create a peaceful outer world and to cultivate a more balanced inner world through mindful eating and movement. We are now bringing a calmer being into a calmer space. And yet, even here, a subtle but powerful source of suffering can persist. It is the mind's default habit of focusing on what is wrong, what is missing, what is lacking. This is a deep, evolutionary groove etched into our brains, a survival mechanism that has outlived much of its usefulness. To find true and lasting peace, we must consciously learn to counteract it. We must learn the gentle but revolutionary art of cultivating gratitude. Our minds, for very good reasons, are like Velcro for negative experiences and Teflon for positive ones. For our ancient ancestors roaming the savannah, it was far more important to remember the location of a dangerous predator than it was to appreciate a beautiful sunset. The one who was hyper-vigilant about threats, the rustle in the grass, the unfamiliar shadow, was the one who survived to pass on their genes. We have inherited this mental software. It is a negativity bias, a built-in tendency to scan our environment, both inner and outer, for problems, dangers, and flaws. In our relatively safe modern world, this ancient software is still running, but it now latches onto different perceived threats. A critical email from our boss, a strange look from a friend, the looming deadline, the stock market's dip. It keeps us in a state of low-grade, chronic anxiety, constantly scanning for what's wrong. And at night, when other distractions fade, this scanner can go into overdrive, presenting us with a comprehensive report on all our deficiencies and all the things that could possibly go wrong. Gratitude is the conscious and deliberate act of training our minds to scan for the good. It is a form of mental physiotherapy designed to strengthen the muscles of appreciation and allow the overstrained muscles of worry to finally relax. One of the most powerful and practical ways to cultivate this quality is through the simple ritual of a gratitude journal. Keep a simple notebook and a pen by your bed, and just before you turn out the light, as the very last act of your day, take a few moments to write down 3 to 5 specific things from that day for which you are grateful. The key to this practice is specificity. General gratitude is nice, but specific gratitude is transformative. For example, instead of writing, "I'm grateful for my family," which is a lovely but abstract thought, you might write, "I am grateful for the way my partner's eyes lit up when I told them about my day," or "I am grateful for the sound of my child's laughter in the other room." Instead of, "I'm grateful for my job," you could write, "I am grateful for that 5-minute conversation with my colleague that made me feel understood and less alone in my work." This specificity is crucial because it forces your mind to relive the positive experience. It reactivates the neural pathways associated with that moment, and it allows you to feel the positive emotion a second time, strengthening the connection. It is an act of savoring the goodness of your life, a goodness that is always present, but so often overlooked. There is a beautiful old story that illustrates the power of this shift in perspective. A wealthy merchant, who was perpetually worried about his business and his vast fortune, saw a poor beggar sitting by the roadside, radiating a sense of profound peace and contentment. The merchant, intrigued and envious, approached the beggar and asked, "You have nothing, yet you seem to be the happiest man I have ever seen. What is your secret?" The beggar smiled and held up his simple clay bowl. "Every morning," he said, "I give thanks for this bowl, which will hold whatever food I am given. When the sun warms my face, I give thanks for the sun. When a stranger places a piece of bread in my bowl, I give thanks for their kindness and for the bread. My life is a constant series of gifts. The merchant walked away in deep thought, realizing that despite all his possessions, he rarely felt thankful for any of them. He was always focused on the fear of losing what he had, or the desire for what he didn't. He realized in that moment that abundance is not a measure of what you have. It is a state of mind, cultivated by gratitude. This practice is not just for the end of the day. It is a powerful tool you can use in the very moment you find yourself lying awake, feeling the familiar frustration of sleeplessness. In that moment, your mind is fixated on a state of lack, the lack of sleep. This focus on lack creates tension and suffering. The practice is to gently pivot your attention. First, acknowledge the feeling, okay, frustration is here. I am feeling a lack of sleep. Then, with as much gentleness as you can muster, ask a new question. In this exact moment, what is present that I can be grateful for? And begin a silent list. I am grateful for this soft pillow under my head. I am grateful for the warmth of these blankets. I am grateful for this roof that is protecting me from the cold night air. I am grateful for the quiet in this room. I am grateful for this body, which is resting, healing, and repairing itself, even if my conscious mind is still active. I am grateful for this very breath, this simple, steady proof that I am alive. Can you feel the shift? In an instant, you have moved your consciousness from a state of impoverished lack to one of opulent abundance. Nothing external has changed. You are still awake, but everything internal has been transformed. You have changed the channel of your mind from the static of complaint to the music of thankfulness. This is not merely a psychological trick or a form of positive thinking. It is a neurochemical intervention. The act of feeling and expressing gratitude has been shown to release neurotransmitters like dopamine and serotonin, the brain's own antidepressants and happiness molecules. It actively calms the amygdala, the brain's fear center, and reduces the production of the stress hormone cortisol. When you are practicing gratitude, you are literally changing your brain's chemistry, steering it away from a state of threat and anxiety and towards a state of contentment and safety. You are proving to yourself, on a biological level, that right here, right now, in this bed, in this room, you are fundamentally okay. The practice of gratitude is a beautiful way to foster a deep acceptance of our present reality, whatever it may hold. It helps us find peace with what is. However, there is often a deeper layer of our suffering that can persist even in a grateful heart. It is the suffering that comes not from a lack of appreciation for the present, but from a powerful, grasping desire for the present to be different. It is the clinging, the desperate attachment to a specific outcome, like the absolute conviction that you must fall asleep now for your life to be okay. This deep-seated attachment is a primary source of our anxiety. How do we work with this powerful force of clinging? This question leads us beyond gratitude into one of the most profound and liberating teachings of the Buddhist path, the wisdom of non-attachment. We have learned to cultivate a grateful heart, to find the quiet richness in the present moment, even a moment of sleeplessness. This practice of gratitude is a powerful balm, soothing the sting of what we perceive to be lacking in our lives. And yet, after we have acknowledged our warm bed and our safe home, a deeper and more tenacious form of suffering can remain. It is the suffering born not from a lack of thankfulness, but from a powerful, white-knuckled, grasping for an outcome we believe we desperately need. It is the pain of attachment. This is the very root of the second arrow, the engine that drives so much of our anxiety. It is the mental fist that clenches around our desires, and in the dead of night, the desire we are most attached to is sleep itself. We are not merely wishing for sleep, we are demanding it from the universe, and our suffering is a direct measure of how tightly we are clinging to that demand. The wisdom of the masters teaches that the cause of our suffering is not the external event itself, but this internal act of clinging, or what in the ancient texts is called upadana. Imagine you are holding a burning coal. The pain you feel comes from your refusal to let it go. The wakefulness itself is neutral. It is just a state of being. But the idea we attach to it, the idea that I must sleep for 8 hours, or tomorrow will be a catastrophe and I will be a failure, is the burning coal. We are so attached to this idea, so convinced of its absolute truth, that we squeeze it tighter and tighter, wondering why our hands are blistering. The practice of non-attachment is the gentle, courageous act of unclenching the fist. It is the wisdom of recognizing that our pain comes not from the coal, but from the clinging. There is a profound parable that illuminates this wisdom. A traveler needed to cross a wide, dangerous river. There was no bridge, so they painstakingly gathered logs and vines and built a sturdy raft. The raft served them beautifully, carrying them safely through the treacherous currents to the other side. Upon reaching the far shore, the traveler was filled with gratitude for the raft that had saved them. Now, what does a wise person do in this situation? A wise person expresses their thanks, leaves the raft by the riverbank where it is no longer needed, and continues their journey on land, unburdened. But an unwise person, a person prone to attachment, might think, this raft was so incredibly useful. It saved my life. I cannot possibly leave it behind. And so, they would hoist the heavy, cumbersome raft onto their back and try to carry it with them as they trekked through the forests and over the mountains. The raft, which was once a tool of liberation, has now become a source of immense suffering, an absurd and exhausting burden. In this story, sleep is the raft. It is a wonderful, useful, and necessary vehicle for crossing the river of the night. But our attachment to the idea of sleep, our desperate insistence that we must have it on our own terms, right now, is what turns it into a heavy burden that we carry with us through the dark hours. We are hoisting the raft onto our backs and then complaining about how much it weighs. The wisdom of non-attachment invites us to a radical shift in perspective. It asks us to leave the raft at the riverbank. It invites us to change our goal entirely. As long as our goal is to fall asleep, we have set ourselves up for a night of potential failure and frustration. Because falling asleep is not something we can directly control. The shift is from a goal of outcome to a goal of process. Our new goal is not to fall asleep, but simply to rest mindfully. This is a goal that is always within our power to achieve. We can rest our body in the bed. We can rest our attention on the gentle rhythm of the breath. We can rest in a state of quiet, non-judgmental awareness. Whether we are technically asleep or awake becomes secondary. If we are resting mindfully, we are succeeding. In this simple reframing, the pressure dissolves. The battle is over because we have refused to fight. We have put down the raft. It is vital to understand that non-attachment is not the same as indifference, apathy, or emotional coldness. It does not mean you stop caring about your life or your well-being. It does not mean you shouldn't have preferences. You can absolutely prefer to get a good night's sleep. You can continue to create the outer and inner conditions that are conducive to rest. The difference is in the quality of your desire. It is the difference between a clenched fist and an open hand. Attachment is the clenched fist. I must have this to be okay. Non-attachment is the open hand. I would prefer this, and I will work towards it, but my fundamental sense of peace is not dependent on achieving it. You can hold a bird in your open hand, and it may choose to stay. But if you try to possess it by clenching your fist, you will crush the very thing you desire. Non-attachment is trusting that life, like the bird, flourishes in spaciousness, not in constriction. The practice, then, becomes one of noticing the act of clinging itself. As you are lying there, feel for that sensation of grasping in the mind. It is a feeling of, I need, I want, it has to be this way. It often has a physical echo, a tightness in the chest, a knot in the stomach, a tension in the jaw. When you notice this feeling arise, you don't need to judge it. You can simply, silently, label it, clinging or grasping. The act of naming it creates a small space between you and the feeling. And in that space, with your next out-breath, you can consciously practice relaxing the fist. Imagine your mind's hand unclenching, finger by finger. You are letting go of the demand. You are releasing your fierce grip on the outcome. You may have to do this 100 times in a night. Each time the desperate desire for sleep arises, you notice the clinging, and you gently, consciously, let it go. You return to the process, resting, breathing, being. This practice of letting go, of releasing our tight-fisted grip on how we think things should be, is not an act of weakness or resignation. It is an act of immense strength and courage. It requires a willingness to step out of the driver's seat of our own ego, which believes it must control everything to be safe. It requires a willingness to place our faith in a deeper, wiser process. It is a conscious surrender, not to defeat, but to a larger intelligence that flows through all of life. It is the cultivation of a profound trust, a trust that our body knows how to heal, that our mind knows how to rest, and that we can be okay even when things do not go according to our plans. This courageous act of letting go is the doorway to our next exploration, the art of trusting the process. We have arrived at the precipice of a great letting go. We have seen how our suffering arises from the tight, clenched fist of attachment, our desperate demand that reality conform to our will. The wisdom of non-attachment invites us to unclench that fist, to release our grip on the outcomes we cannot control. But this raises a profound question. What gives us the courage to open our hand? What allows us to release our frantic striving and simply be? The answer is trust. Not a blind faith, but a deep, embodied trust in a wisdom that is far older and more intelligent than our own conscious, thinking mind. To find true rest, we must learn the art of surrender, handing over the reins from the anxious ego to the quiet, competent wisdom of the body and the natural processes of life. Consider, for a moment, the silent miracles unfolding within your body right now, without any conscious effort on your part. Your heart is beating in a steady, faithful rhythm, a drumbeat you did not start and do not need to conduct. Your lungs are drawing in the air of the world and releasing what is no longer needed, a perfect exchange that sustains your very existence. Your cells are dividing, your food is digesting, your wounds are healing. Billions of intricate, genius-level processes are occurring in perfect harmony. You are not managing any of this. The small, conscious part of you that you call I, the part that worries about emails and deadlines, has very little to do with this profound, autonomous intelligence. This intelligence, this life force, knows how to regulate, how to heal, and how to maintain balance. And it also knows, with absolute certainty, how to sleep. The only obstacle is the I, the small, anxious self that believes it is the chief executive of this entire operation, and that without its constant, fretful management, everything will fall apart. This ego, our conscious thinking mind, is like a well-intentioned but deeply incompetent manager who has been promoted far beyond their abilities. It runs around the factory floor of the body, shouting contradictory orders. It tells the heart to relax, but then injects it with thoughts of fear that make it race. It tells the mind to be quiet, but then insists on replaying every mistake of the day. It is a manager who believes that the solution to every problem is more effort, more control, more interference. But sleep is one of those magical processes that, like the beating of your own heart, happens only when the manager finally leaves the factory floor. It happens not through more doing, but through a complete cessation of doing. The practice of surrender is the gentle but firm act of escorting this meddling manager out of the building and trusting the wise, experienced workers of the body to do their job in peace. There is a beautiful parable that captures this wisdom perfectly. Imagine two farmers, both of whom have planted a field of rice. The first farmer is anxious and impatient. He wants his rice to grow quickly. Every morning, he goes out to the field and pulls on the young green shoots, trying to stretch them, trying to force them to grow taller. In his desperate effort to control the outcome, he uproots the delicate seedlings and destroys his entire crop. The second farmer is wise. She too wants a healthy crop. She works diligently to create the right conditions. She tills the soil. She ensures the fields are properly irrigated. She protects the shoots from pests. And then, having done all that is within her power to do, she lets go. She trusts in the deeper magic of the process itself, the wisdom of the seed, the nourishment of the earth, the energy of the sun. She knows that she cannot force the rice to grow. She can only create the conditions for it to flourish naturally. In our quest for sleep, we must learn to be the wise farmer. We have been diligently creating the right conditions. We have created a quiet, dark sanctuary. We have calmed our bodies. We have quieted our minds. We have done the work that is ours to do. Now comes the most important and difficult step. We must let go and trust the process. To try and force sleep to come is like pulling on the rice shoots. It is an act of anxious violence that is counterproductive to our goal. Surrender is the farmer's trust. It is the deep recognition that we have done our part. And now we must allow the greater, natural intelligence of our own body to do its part. To practice this surrender, you can use the power of visualization as you lie in bed. Imagine that you are floating on your back in a wide, slow-moving river on a warm summer day. The water is buoyant and is holding you completely and effortlessly. The current is gentle and it is carrying you exactly where you need to go. Your only task is to stop swimming. Release the tension in your arms and legs. Let your neck be soft and your head be heavy, fully supported by the water. Give your entire weight over to the river. There is nothing to do, nowhere to go. You are being held. You are safe. Trust the current. Another powerful practice is to surrender to the force of gravity. With each out-breath, feel your body becoming just a little heavier. Feel the mattress supporting you completely. Imagine gravity as a gentle, loving force, pulling you down, down, down into a state of profound rest. Let go of the need to hold yourself up. Allow yourself to sink into the support that is already there. In our culture, the word surrender is often freighted with negative connotations. We see it as a sign of weakness, of defeat, of giving up. But in a spiritual context, surrender is an act of supreme strength and wisdom. It is the courage to acknowledge the limits of our own personal will. It is the intelligence to recognize what is our job and what is not. It is not an act of giving up, but of giving over. You are giving the task of initiating sleep over to the part of you that is infinitely more qualified to handle it. The deep, ancient wisdom of your own body. It is the ultimate act of humility and trust. This state of trust and surrender, however, is not a static destination. It is a dynamic process. The anxious manager, the ego, will not simply leave the factory and never return. It will keep trying to sneak back in, to offer its helpful suggestions, to try and take control again. Maintaining this state of open-handed trust requires a continuous and gentle form of vigilance. It requires a specific kind of effort, not the tense, striving effort of the foolish farmer, but the calm, steady, and patient effort of the wise farmer tending her fields. How do we cultivate this balanced and effective form of effort? This question leads us directly to a cornerstone of Buddhist practice, Shan Ting Tun, or right effort, the art of walking the middle path. We have arrived at a place of profound trust, learning to surrender our struggle to the wise, natural processes of the body. We have made the courageous decision to let go of our desperate need to control. But this surrender is not a passive collapse. It is not an excuse for laziness or for letting the mind run wild without any guidance. The state of trust is a delicate one, a vibrant stillness that must be maintained with a very specific quality of energy. The ego, the anxious manager, will constantly try to reclaim its old job. To maintain this state of peaceful surrender requires a gentle, persistent, and skillful kind of effort. The wisdom of the masters provides a perfect map for this, known as Chan Tin Tun, or right effort. It is the art of finding the middle path, the perfect balance between the two extremes that sabotage our peace, trying too hard and not trying at all. There is a beautiful story that perfectly illustrates this principle. A monk named Sona was practicing meditation with incredible, almost violent intensity. He would walk in meditation until his feet bled. He would sit for hours, gritting his teeth against pain and distraction. But instead of finding peace, he found only exhaustion and deep discouragement. He was on the verge of giving up entirely, believing he was a failure. The Buddha, perceiving his state of mind, went to him. He knew that before becoming a monk, Sona had been a master musician, renowned for his skill with the lute. The Buddha asked him, "Sona, tell me, as a musician, what happens if you tune the string of your lute too tightly?" Sona replied, "Venerable sir, if the string is too tight, it will snap." The Buddha then asked, "And what happens if you tune the string too loosely?" "Sir," Sona said, "if it is too loose, it will make no sound at all." The Buddha looked at him with gentle eyes. "So it is, Sona, with the practice of meditation. If you apply too much effort, you will create agitation and burn out. If you apply too little effort, you will fall into laziness and distraction. The beautiful music of peace arises only when the string is tuned just right." In our own nightly practice, we are all Sona, trying to tune the instrument of our own mind. For much of our lives, we have been playing with the string tuned far too tight. This is the energy of striving. It is the clenched jaw, the furrowed brow, the inner voice that commands, "Relax now." It is the frantic effort to force the mind to be silent, to bully the body into sleep. When a thought arises, we swat at it with anger. When our mind wanders, we yank it back with frustration. We turn the gentle art of letting go into another high-pressure performance, another opportunity to judge ourselves as failures. This is the foolish farmer, pulling on the rice shoots. This is the musician, tightening the string until it snaps, leaving us with nothing but the shrill sound of our own stress. The other extreme is the string that is too loose. This is the energy of laxity, of giving up completely. It is the mind that says, "This is too hard, I can't do it," and then passively allows itself to be swept away by an endless torrent of anxieties, daydreams, and mental chatter. It is resigning ourselves to the chaos of the monkey mind, letting it rampage through the night without any gentle guidance. This is the untended garden, quickly overgrown with weeds. The loose string makes no music at all. It produces only a dull, numb, and chaotic noise. Right effort is the art of finding that perfect pitch, the just right tuning. It is a relaxed vigilance, a gentle but firm persistence. It is the intention to stay present, but an intention that is held with kindness and patience. It is the wisdom to guide our attention back to the breath, as gently as we would pick up a fallen feather, not with the harsh grip of a pair of pliers. It is the energy of the wise farmer who does not pull on the shoots, but who also does not abandon the field. She shows up every day with steady and patient care. The Buddha described this balanced practice as working in 4 fields. First is the effort to prevent unwholesome states from arising. As you lie in bed, you might notice the seed of a new worry begin to sprout. Right effort is the conscious choice not to water that seed. You see the train of thought pulling into the station, and you choose not to get on. You are guarding the gateway of your mind, preventing the entry of fresh anxiety. Second is the effort to abandon unwholesome states that have already arisen. Sometimes we become aware that we are already in the grip of fear or frustration. The unwholesome state is already present. The effort here is not to fight it, which would be tuning the string too tightly. The right effort is to gently apply the practices we have learned, to acknowledge the feeling, to meet it with compassion, to breathe with it, and to patiently allow it to dissolve on its own. Third is the effort to cultivate wholesome states that have not yet arisen. This is the active, generative side of the practice. It is the gentle effort it takes to remember to practice loving kindness. It is the conscious decision to pivot from a state of lack to one of gratitude. It is the effort of planting the flowers of peace and compassion in the garden of your mind. Fourth is the effort to maintain the wholesome states that are already present. Once you have found a measure of peace, once your attention is resting comfortably with the breath, or you feel a sense of calm in your body, right effort is the gentle, continuous diligence required to stay there. It is the act of repeatedly, and ever so gently, returning your awareness to that state whenever it begins to wander. It is sustaining the beautiful note once the string has been properly tuned. This skill of tuning your own mind is not just a technique for sleepless nights. It is a master skill for living a balanced, productive, and peaceful life. It is the wisdom that allows us to engage with our work, our relationships, and our challenges with an energy that is both effective and sustainable, avoiding the twin pitfalls of anxious burnout and lazy indifference. But this perfectly tuned instrument of the mind cannot be expected to find its pitch in 5 minutes at the end of the day, if we have spent the previous 16 hours letting the strings be either violently tight or completely slack. The ultimate practice, therefore, is to learn how to carry this quality of right effort, this mindful, balanced engagement, with us throughout our entire day. The peace of the night is born from the quality of the day, and so our journey now expands from the bedroom sanctuary out into the world of our daily lives. We have learned the fine art of tuning the instrument of our mind, finding the middle path of right effort, that perfect pitch between striving and slackness. This is the key to maintaining a state of peaceful surrender during the night. But the quality of the music we produce at night is almost entirely dependent on how we handle our instrument during the day. It is a deeply held but misguided belief of modern life that we can live our waking hours in a state of frantic, fragmented, and stressful chaos, and then simply flip a switch at 10 o'clock and enter a state of profound peace. The mind does not have a switch. It has momentum. A mind that has been running at a frantic pace all day does not simply stop at the bedroom door. It crashes right through it, bringing all the day's agitation, worries, and unfinished business with it. A peaceful night is not an escape from a stressful day. It is the natural harvest of a day lived with mindful presence. Consider the momentum of a typical modern day. It begins, often, before we are even out of bed, by reaching for the smartphone. We immediately flood our just awakened consciousness with the anxieties of the world, emails from work, upsetting news headlines, the curated perfection of other people's lives on social media. We then rush through our morning, our minds already in the future, planning the day, worrying about meetings, as we gulp down coffee and toast without ever tasting them. We spend our workday multitasking, juggling multiple screens, conversations, and demands, a state of being that fragments our attention and creates a chronic, low-grade stress. We commute home, lost in thought, replaying the day's frustrations. We eat our evening meal in front of a screen, distracting ourselves from our exhaustion. By the time we collapse into bed, our mind is like a runaway train, loaded with the freight of a 16-hour journey of distraction and agitation. To expect it to come to a sudden, peaceful halt is not only unrealistic, it is impossible. The practice of a mindful day is the art of gently and repeatedly applying the brakes to this runaway train. It is not about adding more things to your already crowded schedule. It is about changing the quality of awareness you bring to the things you are already doing. It is about transforming mundane activities from unconscious habits into opportunities for presence and peace. This is how you change the momentum of your day. This is how you arrive at your sanctuary at night, with a mind that is already predisposed to stillness. The practice can begin with the very first moments of your day. When you wake, before you reach for your phone, take 1 minute, lie still, and bring your awareness into your body. Feel the sheets. Notice the quality of the light in the room. Feel the simple, miraculous fact of your own breath. You are starting your day from a place of presence, not panic. As you brush your teeth, instead of planning your day in your head, bring your attention to the physical sensations, the feel of the bristles on your gums, the taste of the paste, the sound of the brush. When you drink your first cup of coffee or tea, turn it into a 3-minute meditation. Don't just drink it, experience it. Feel the warmth of the mug in your hands. Inhale its aroma, take a sip, and let the flavor and warmth fill your senses. You are not just consuming a beverage, you are practicing being present. Throughout your day, you can weave in what are called mindful pauses. These are tiny pockets of sanity in the midst of a busy schedule. You can set a quiet alarm on your watch or phone to go off once every hour. When it chimes, the practice is simply to stop what you are doing and take 3 conscious breaths. On the first breath, notice your body. On the second, notice your emotional state. On the third, notice your thoughts. You are not trying to change anything. You are just checking in with yourself. This small act, taking less than a minute, repeatedly breaks the spell of unconsciousness and brings you back home to yourself. It prevents the stress from accumulating, allowing it to drain away bit by bit throughout the day. This is like regularly loosening the strings of the lute, ensuring they never get too tight. Even the chores you may dislike can become practices. When you are washing the dishes, feel the warm water on your hands. See the iridescent soap bubbles. Hear the sound of the water. When you are walking from one place to another, practice the walking meditation we have discussed, feeling the soles of your feet connecting with the earth. By bringing this quality of attention to your life, you are challenging the myth that meditation is something that only happens on a cushion in a quiet room. The whole world becomes your meditation hall. Your entire life becomes your practice. There is a story of a master potter known for creating vessels of perfect balance and beauty. A student watched him at his wheel, mesmerized by the potter's focused, yet relaxed attention. Every touch, every gentle pressure applied to the spinning clay was done with a calm, unwavering presence. The student asked, "Master, how do you create such perfect pots?" The potter replied without looking up from his work, "I do not create a perfect pot. I just pay perfect attention to this one small part of the clay, right now, and then the next. And then the next. The pot is simply what is left when I have been fully present with the clay. Our life is that clay on the wheel. Our day is the pot we are shaping. If our attention is scattered and our energy is frantic, the pot of our day will be misshapen, weak, and unbalanced. And it is this unbalanced vessel that we bring to bed with us. If we bring moments of mindful, loving attention to our day, we create a life that is strong, balanced, and beautiful. The peace we feel at the end of the day is simply the echo of the presence we have cultivated. Think of your mind as having a stress bucket. Every time you react unconsciously, every time you get lost in worry, every time you rush through an experience, you are adding a little water to this bucket. A day lived on autopilot means you arrive at bedtime with a bucket that is full to the brim, ready to overflow and flood your night with anxiety. Each mindful pause, each moment of presence, each act of single tasking is like a small hole in the bottom of the bucket. It allows the stress to drain out as it arises. Throughout the day, you arrive at your sanctuary with a bucket that is light, manageable, or perhaps even empty. This is the ideal. But we are human, and life is unpredictable. There will be days of immense stress, days where our practice falters, days where, despite our best efforts, the bucket is full. And on the nights that follow those days, we may find ourselves lying awake, the old feelings of frustration and despair creeping back in. In these moments, it is crucial that we do not abandon our practice and fall back into the old, painful habits of struggle. We need a clear, predetermined plan of action for how to skillfully and compassionately handle these difficult nights. What is the wisest course of action when, even after all this, the night feels too long? We have walked the path of the mindful day, learning to bring a quality of calm, present moment awareness to our waking hours. By doing so, we arrive at our sanctuary each night with a mind less burdened, a body more at ease, and a heart more open. We have done everything a wise farmer would do to ensure a peaceful harvest of rest. And yet, life is not a predictable equation. There will be days of unexpected turmoil, of illness, of grief, of immense stress. And on the nights that follow such days, despite all our best intentions and wisest practices, we may find ourselves lying in bed, wide awake, the clock hands creeping past midnight, and then 1, and then 2. In these moments, it is easy for despair to set in. It is easy to think, none of this is working, and to fall back into the old, painful habits of tossing and turning, of fighting with the darkness, of clenching our fists in frustration. It is precisely for these difficult nights that we need a new plan, a prearranged, skillful, and compassionate protocol that allows us to navigate the long hours with grace, transforming what feels like a curse into an opportunity for practice. The first, most destructive habit we must break is the habit of lying in bed for hours while engaged in a mental war. When you do this, you are teaching your nervous system, through powerful conditioning, to associate your bed with feelings of anxiety, frustration, and failure. Your sanctuary, your place of rest, slowly becomes the enemy's territory, a wrestling mat where you are pinned down by your own mind. The first step in our new plan is a strategic and compassionate retreat from this unwinnable battle. The guideline is simple. If you have been lying in bed for what feels like 20 or 30 minutes and you are not asleep, but are instead feeling increasingly agitated, it is time to gently get up. This is not an act of failure or giving up. It is a wise and courageous act of self-care. It is refusing to participate in your own suffering. It is a conscious decision to break the cycle of anxiety. Once you are out of bed, the intention is not to pace the house frantically or to distract yourself with stimulating activities. The intention is to move to a different, comfortable space and engage in a quiet, calming activity under dim, warm light. It is helpful to have this space prepared in advance. It might be a comfortable armchair in a quiet corner of your living room. Beside it, you can keep a book that nourishes the soul, not a thrilling novel or a work-related text, but perhaps a book of poetry, of philosophy, or of spiritual teachings. Reading a few pages from such a book can gently guide the mind away from its own narrow anxieties and towards a wider, more peaceful perspective. It is crucial that this reading is done with a soft lamp, not on a glowing screen which will only wake your brain up further. Alternatively, you could use this gifted time for formal meditation practice. You can move to a cushion on the floor or sit upright in a chair and simply return to your breath. You can practice the body scan or the metta meditation we have explored. The deep stillness of the house in the middle of the night, free from the distractions of the day, can be a uniquely powerful and clarifying time to meditate. Or perhaps you might simply make yourself a warm, caffeine-free cup of herbal tea, like chamomile or lavender. The simple, mindful ritual of boiling the water, preparing the mug, and slowly sipping the warm liquid can be a profoundly grounding and soothing practice in itself. You are comforting your body and giving your mind a simple, peaceful task to focus on. Here we come to the most important part of this new plan, the crucial shift in intention that changes everything. The purpose of getting up is not to force yourself to become sleepy so you can go back to bed. If that is your goal, you have simply moved the struggle from the bedroom to the living room. You are still attached to the outcome, still striving, still setting yourself up for frustration. The new and liberating intention is this: you are using this quiet, wakeful time to practice being at peace. That is the goal. Success is not falling asleep. Success is spending this hour with a calm mind and a compassionate heart. You are redefining the win. If you sit and read poetry for 45 minutes and feel a sense of quiet contentment, you have succeeded, even if you still feel wide awake. If you meditate and find a few moments of spaciousness, you have succeeded. If you mindfully sip a cup of tea, you have succeeded. You are letting go of the war with wakefulness and instead choosing to cultivate peace within it. There is a story of a young, earnest student who was troubled by his own fitful sleep. He went to his Zen master and asked, "Master, I try all the techniques, but some nights my mind will not be still. What is your secret?" What do you do on the nights when you cannot sleep? The student expected to be told of a secret breathing technique or a hidden pressure point to induce slumber. The master smiled gently. On the nights when I cannot sleep, he said, I get up. I bow to the quiet darkness. I make myself a cup of tea, and I go to the meditation hall, and I sit. The world is so still. At that hour, the silence is so deep. It is a precious and wonderful time to practice. I do not see it as a problem. I receive it as a gift. This is the essence of the shift. The master did not see his wakefulness as a failure to be corrected, but as an opportunity to be embraced. He had transformed the curse into a blessing. When, and only when, you feel a natural wave of drowsiness return, you can gently make your way back to your bedroom sanctuary. You do not rush back, anxious to catch the sleep before it gets away. You walk slowly, calmly. You lie down, and you return to the simple anchor practice of resting your attention on your breath. You have broken the cycle. You have proven to yourself that you are not a helpless victim of the night, but a skillful practitioner who can navigate even its most challenging passages with wisdom and grace. This practical plan is an essential tool for our journey. It helps us to skillfully manage the experience when it arises. But as we become more adept at this, a deeper question may begin to surface. We have spent all this time developing techniques to soothe, guide, and outwit this struggling, striving part of ourselves. But who or what is this part? What is the nature of this inner voice that judges, demands, panic, and clings? To find the root of our suffering, we must now turn our full attention to this mysterious entity, the silent saboteur of our peace, the architect of our struggle, the self we call the ego. We have journeyed far, assembling a remarkable toolkit of practices to bring peace to the long watches of the night. We have learned to anchor ourselves in the breath, to observe our thoughts as passing clouds, to soothe the body, to cultivate kindness, to release the day, and to stand with calm courage in the face of fear. We have even built a plan for those nights when, despite our best efforts, rest remains elusive. We have learned all the skillful things to do, but now we must turn our attention to the one who is so busy doing all this struggling. We must gently and courageously investigate the very identity of the one who suffers. Who is this I that cannot sleep? Who is this narrator that weaves such tales of drama and despair in the darkness? To find the ultimate source of our nightly turmoil, we must meet the silent saboteur, the master storyteller, the entity we call the ego. In the context of our practice, the ego is not a complex psychoanalytic term. It is simply that persistent sense of being a separate, solid me at the center of our experience. It is the voice in our head that provides a running commentary on our life. It is the part of us that takes everything personally. The ego is the one who feels proud of a success and ashamed of a failure. It is the one who feels wronged, who gets angry, who feels anxious. Its primary job is self-preservation, and its primary tools are control, judgment, and the creation of a continuous story about who we are. And for the ego, a sleepless night is a profound and terrifying threat. It is a situation it cannot control. It can't force sleep to happen, and this powerlessness is infuriating to it. It is a direct challenge to its belief that it is the one in charge. And so, it reacts, creating an immense and unnecessary drama around the simple fact of being awake. Listen closely in the quiet of the night, and you can hear its voice. It is the voice that says, "I can't believe I'm still awake." It's the voice that catastrophizes about the future. "My day will be ruined. I will be a wreck." It is the voice that assigns blame. My body is betraying me. Most insidiously, the ego loves to create an identity out of our suffering. It takes the temporary experience of a few bad nights and weaves it into a solid narrative. I am a person with insomnia. I am a bad sleeper. Once this identity is created, the ego will work tirelessly to defend it, constantly scanning for evidence to prove its story is true. A single night of poor sleep becomes a confirmation of this deeply held identity, and the cycle of suffering is reinforced. The ego, in its desperate attempt to make sense of the situation, casts us as the tragic hero in a drama of its own making. The path to freedom lies in learning to see this drama for what it is, and to see the main character, the ego, as a kind of illusion. There is a powerful Zen parable that illuminates this. A man was meditating in his small boat on a vast, quiet lake. He was in a state of deep peace, enjoying the stillness. Suddenly, another boat came out of the mist and struck his boat with a loud thud, jolting him from his meditation. The man was filled with a surge of anger. How dare someone be so careless and ruin his peaceful moment? He opened his eyes, ready to shout a string of insults at the person in the other boat. But as he looked, he saw that the other boat was empty. It had simply come unmoored and had drifted into him on the current. In that instant, his anger completely vanished. There was no one to be angry at. It was just an event, an empty boat, a happening without a malicious agent behind it. Our own ego-driven thoughts, especially the ones that torment us at night, are like that other boat. A thought arises, "You are failing at this," and it bumps into our awareness. Our immediate reaction is to assume there is someone steering that boat. We believe there is a real, solid, malicious self inside that thought, attacking us. And so we react with our own anger and fear. We start shouting insults back at the boat. But the practice of mindfulness invites us to look closely before we react. It invites us to see who or what is actually steering that boat. And when we look with clear and steady attention, we find what the man on the lake found. The boat is empty. The thought, "You are failing," is not a personal attack from a real entity. It is an impersonal mental event, a pattern of energy that has arisen and will soon pass away. It is an empty boat. When we truly see this, our anger and fear towards our own thoughts begin to dissolve. How can you be angry at an empty boat? The practice, then, is to begin to observe the ego in action. When the thought, "I am so frustrated," arises, gently ask the question, who is this I that is frustrated? Don't try to answer the question with more thoughts. Instead, simply look for this I. Can you find it? Can you locate a solid, continuous, unchanging self that is having this experience? Or do you just find more thoughts, more feelings, more bodily sensations, all constantly changing, all arising and passing away like clouds in the sky? This gentle, investigative questioning begins to loosen the ego's powerful grip. You are no longer assuming its existence. You are questioning it. You are seeing it not as the master of the house, but just another visitor, another character in the play of the mind. Ultimately, sleep itself is the natural state of ego dissolution. When you fall into deep, dreamless sleep, the I is gone. The narrator is silent. The storyteller has left the stage. There is no one there to worry, no one to strive, no one to suffer. Sleep arises in the absence of the ego. This is why all the practices we have been learning are so effective. They are all skillful and gentle ways of inviting the ego to step aside. When you rest your attention on the breath, you are giving the ego nothing to do, no story to create, so it gets bored. and quiets down. When you practice non-attachment, you are taking away the ego's favorite fuel, its desperate need for a specific outcome. When you surrender, you are asking the ego to give up its role as the manager and trust in a deeper wisdom. Each practice is a way of creating the conditions for the ego to dissolve so that the natural state of rest can emerge. We have now placed the ego under our mindful microscope. We have identified it as the silent saboteur, the weaver of our nightly dramas. We have seen, through the parable of the empty boat, that its angry pronouncements are ultimately without a real agent behind them. This leads us to a final, breathtaking, and utterly liberating question. We have been proceeding as if the ego is a real entity that we need to observe and manage. But what if we take that final step? What if we investigate the possibility that this central character, this I, that we have believed ourselves to be our entire lives, is itself the greatest illusion of all? This inquiry takes us beyond psychology and into the very heart of spiritual liberation, into the profound wisdom of what the Buddha called anatta, the truth of no self. We have come to a pivotal juncture in our journey. We have identified the ego, that chattering, striving sense of I, as the primary architect of our nightly struggle. We have learned to observe its dramas and to see its pronouncements as empty boats drifting on the currents of the mind. This is a profound step, but now we are invited to take one final, revolutionary leper leap that takes us from managing the saboteur to realizing the saboteur itself may be a phantom. We will now explore the most liberating and perhaps the most challenging teaching of the Buddha, the wisdom of anatta, or no self. This is the understanding that at the very core of our being, there is no fixed, solid, independent I to be found. And in this discovery lies the key to ultimate freedom from suffering. At first, the idea of no self can sound terrifying. It can feel like a cold, nihilistic denial of our own existence. But this is a misunderstanding. The teaching of anatta is not saying that you do not exist. It is saying that you do not exist in the way you think you do. We operate under the deep, unquestioned assumption that inside this body and mind, there is a permanent, unchanging entity, a little pilot in the cockpit, a chief executive in the control room, who is the real me. The practice of insight is to undertake a gentle, honest investigation to see if we can actually find this core entity. Let us begin the search. Where is this I that you are so sure is you? Is it your body? Look at your body. It is in a constant state of flux. It was once the body of an infant, then a child, then an adolescent. It is aging with every passing moment. Cells are dying and being replaced. It gets sick. It gets injured. It feels pleasure. It feels pain. The body is not a static thing. It is a flowing river of biological processes. It cannot be the permanent, stable I. Oh, perhaps then, the I is in your feelings. Consider your emotions. Happiness, sadness, anger, joy, boredom. They come and go like the weather. One moment you are happy, the next you are sad. A feeling arises, stays for a while, and then vanishes, replaced by another. If you were your feelings, your identity would be constantly flickering in and out of existence. Your feelings are experiences that you have. They are not what you are. Well, surely the I must be your thoughts, your intellect, your memories. But we have already seen that thoughts are like clouds, appearing from nowhere and dissolving back into nothing. Your opinions change. You learn new things and forget old ones. Your mind is a ceaseless cascade of mental events. There is no single, stable thinker behind the thoughts. The thoughts themselves are the process. You are not your thoughts. So, where is this elusive I? This brings us to a powerful metaphor. The self is like an onion. If you want to find the true essence of an onion, you might begin to peel it, layer by layer. You peel off the dry outer skin, this is your physical body. You peel off the next layer, these are your feelings. You peel off another, your thoughts, another your memories, another your beliefs. You keep peeling, 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 convinced that you will eventually arrive at a solid core, the essential onion-ness of the onion. But as you peel away the final, innermost layer, you are left with nothing. There is no core. The startling truth you discover is that the onion was nothing more than the sum of its layers. The self is exactly like this. It is a temporary collection of constantly changing physical and mental processes, body, feelings, perceptions, thoughts, and consciousness. We give this collection a single name, a convenient label like John or Jane, and then we make the mistake of believing that the label points to a real, solid thing. But when we look for the thing itself, we cannot find it. The sense of I, then, is not an entity, but a process. It is a story the mind tells itself, a cognitive habit. The brain brilliantly strings together billions of disparate, fleeting moments of experience and weaves them into a coherent narrative with a central protagonist, me. This story is incredibly useful for navigating the world. We need to say, I am hungry, or I will go to work. But we suffer when we mistake this useful fiction for an ultimate truth. We suffer when we believe, with every fiber of our being, in the reality of this protagonist and its dramas. Now, let us bring this profound insight to our mattress in the middle of the night. You are lying there, and the familiar thought arises, I cannot sleep, and I am suffering because of it. This is the moment for gentle inquiry. Ask yourself, with genuine curiosity, who is this I that cannot sleep? Look for the sufferer. Look for the one who is being harmed. Don't try to answer with your intellect. Look with your awareness. When you look deeply, what do you find? You will find the physical sensation of an alert body. You will find thoughts of anxiety arising and passing. You will find feelings of frustration coming and going. You will find all the layers of the onion. But can you find a solid, continuous me at the center of it all? Who is the owner of these experiences? Can you find the victim of this sleeplessness? The truth is, you cannot. There are thoughts, but no permanent thinker. There are feelings, but no permanent feeler. There is suffering, but there is no solid self who suffers. The experience is happening, but it is not happening to a separate you. It is simply happening. This is not just a philosophical game. This insight has the power to cut the very root of our anxiety. When you see that there is no solid, permanent self to protect, the mind's frantic efforts at self-preservation can finally relax. If there is no me to fail at the task of sleeping, then the fear of failure becomes powerless. If there is no me to be judged as a bad sleeper, then the entire narrative of identity collapses. The immense lifelong burden of carrying this heavy, fragile I on your back, defending it, promoting it, worrying about itis suddenly lifted. It is the ultimate letting go, a release so profound that it allows for a peace that is not dependent on any external or internal conditions. This wisdom of anatta, of no self, is the summit of the mountain we have been climbing. We have journeyed through the foothills of practical techniques and ascended through the high passes of deep philosophical inquiry. We have arrived at a vantage point from which we can see the entire landscape of our suffering and its cessation. The final question is not how to climb higher, but how to live on the plains below. infused with the fresh, clear air of this mountaintop view. How do we take this profound insight, along with all the other tools we have gathered, and weave it into the fabric of our lived reality? This is the art of integration, of learning to walk the path of life with the wisdom we have uncovered, and transforming our very relationship with what it means to be at peace. We have traveled on a long and winding path together, a journey that began with a simple, painful problem, the struggle against the sleepless night. We started in the dark, feeling like a victim of our own restless mind. We have since journeyed through the deepest valleys and scaled the highest peaks of inner exploration. We have learned to anchor ourselves in the breath, to watch our thoughts like clouds, to befriend our deepest fears, and to release the heavy burden of the past. We have even dared to question the very nature of the I who suffers. Now, as we draw the threads of this journey together, we arrive at a final, essential understanding, a truth that reframes everything we have learned. Peace is not the destination we have been striving for. Peace is the path itself, available to us in every single step we take. We began this journey believing that the goal was to find the secret to sleep. We sought a key that would unlock the door to 8 hours of effortless unconsciousness, believing that on the other side of that door lay the peace we craved. But the path of wisdom has led us to a different truth. The ultimate goal was never sleep. A good night's sleep is a wonderful, beautiful, and welcome result of this practice, but it is not the prize. It is a lovely side effect. The true prize, the real goal of this entire journey, is the liberation from suffering itself. It is the cultivation of a mind so spacious, a heart so compassionate, that it can be at peace no matter the circumstances, whether we are awake, in the quiet of the night, or walking through the challenges of our day. We have learned that peace is not found in changing our experience, but in changing our relationship to our experience. It is not about silencing the storm, but about finding the calm, unshakable eye within the hurricane. It is not about eliminating all the difficult thoughts and feelings, but about developing an awareness so vast and so kind that it can hold even the most painful emotions without being broken by them. This means that peace is available to you right now, not later, after you've finally had a good night's sleep, not tomorrow, after your problems are solved, right here, in this moment. If you are feeling anxious, peace is found in the ability to meet that anxiety with a gentle, non-judgmental presence. If you are feeling frustrated, peace is found in the simple act of returning your attention to the anchor of your breath. Peace is not in the what, but in the how. It is the quality of loving awareness that we bring to whatever is arising. With this understanding, our relationship to the night is utterly transformed. The darkness is no longer an enemy to be conquered. The long, silent hours are no longer a desolate wasteland of time to be endured. The night becomes our sanctuary, our private laboratory, our sacred monastery. It is a silent, distraction-free space that is perfectly designed for deep inner work. Every moment of wakefulness ceases to be a sign of failure and becomes an invitation to practice. An anxious thought arises. It is an opportunity to practice non-attachment. A feeling of fear appears. It is an opportunity to practice befriending it with compassion. The mind begins to race. It is a perfect opportunity to practice returning with infinite gentleness to the breath. The night becomes our most patient and profound teacher, showing us exactly where we are still caught, where we are still clinging, where we still hold tension. It is a gift of time, offered to us for the sole purpose of our own healing and liberation. This leads us to a crucial redefinition of what constitutes a good night. Our old definition was rigid, outcome-based, and a recipe for suffering. It was a simple, binary question. Did I get my 8 hours? Yes or no? If the answer was no, the night was a failure, and the day was preordained to be a struggle. We must release this tyrannical definition and adopt a new one that is based on process, on intention, and on compassion. The new questions to ask ourselves are, how did I meet my experience last night? When the struggle arose, did I remember to be gentle with myself? Did I find my way back to the breath, even for a few moments? Did I release the demand for sleep, even for just a little while? Did I treat myself with the kindness I would offer a friend? From this new perspective, it is entirely possible to have a profoundly successful and restful night with very little sleep. A night spent practicing peace, offering yourself compassion, and letting go of the struggle is infinitely more restorative than a night spent in a state of tormented, shallow sleep. You are no longer measuring your success by a number on a clock, but by the quality of your own heart. This is the ultimate empowerment. It takes the possibility of failure completely off the table. As long as you are practicing, you are succeeding. All the various techniques we have explored: the breath, the body scan, metta, non-attachment, right effort. The wisdom of no self are not a disconnected checklist of things to do. They are like different facets of a single, magnificent diamond. At their heart, they are all pointing to the same thing: the cultivation of a mindful, present, and compassionate awareness. They are all ways of inviting us to come home to the present moment. For it is only in the present moment that true peace can ever be found. The ancient masters used a final, beautiful metaphor for this entire process: the lotus flower. The lotus is a symbol of purity, beauty, and spiritual awakening. But where does this exquisite flower grow? It does not grow on a pristine, clean mountaintop. The lotus rises from the thick, dark, murky mud at the bottom of a pond. The mud is not an obstacle to the lotus. The mud is the very source of the nutrients that allow it to grow. So it is with our practice. Our suffering, our anxiety, our fear, our restless, sleepless nights, this is our mud. For so long, we have tried to escape the mud, to deny it, to pretend it isn't there. But the path of wisdom teaches us that our enlightenment is to be found not in spite of the mud, but because of it. It is by rooting ourselves in the messy, difficult, and painful realities of our lives, and bringing a quality of loving awareness to them, that the beautiful lotus of peace can finally bloom. Your sleepless night is the very mud from which your liberation can arise. And so, we stand at the end of our long exploration, not at a final destination, but at the true beginning of a path. The path is now clear. The tools are in your hands. The map has been drawn. The journey is no longer a desperate search for a solution, but a steady, compassionate, and moment-to-moment walk towards the peace that is already, and always has been, your truest nature. We began this journey together in the dark, in the lonely, silent hours of the morning, feeling trapped by a mind that would not rest. We started with a simple, desperate question: how can I find sleep? And that question has led us down a profound and transformative path. We discovered that our deepest pain came not from being awake, but from the second arrow of our own judgment and fear. In the gentle, steady rhythm of the breath, we found an anchor, a way to come home to the present moment. We learned to watch our thoughts and feelings as clouds drifting across the vast, open sky of our awareness, realizing that we are the sky, not the storm. We tended to the landscape of the body, listening to its messages and softening its tensions. We warmed the heart with loving kindness and put down the heavy burdens of the past and the future. And finally, we dared to look at the very nature of the self who struggles, only to find a spacious, liberating freedom. in its place. We have walked a long way, not to a final destination, but to the true beginning of a new way of being. And here, we discover the final, simple truth. The peace you have been so desperately seeking was never hidden on the other side of a perfect night's sleep. It was not a prize to be won after a long and difficult battle with your own mind. It was here, all along. It has always been here, waiting patiently for you, in your own innate capacity for gentle, loving, present moment awareness. The goal was never to conquer the night. It was to learn how to befriend it. True, deep, restorative rest is not an escape from your life, but a full and compassionate embrace of your life, in all its messy, beautiful, and imperfect reality. It is the ability to be with whatever is here, whether that is calm or chaos, with a heart that is open and a mind that is free. You are no longer a victim of your own mind. You have learned to be the calm and loving witness of it. You are no longer the junior monk, carrying the weight of the day, long after it has ended. You are the wise gardener who knows how to tend the soil of your inner world. You have the tools. You have the wisdom. The path is now clear. There will still be storms. The winds of life will still blow. But you now know that deep beneath the choppy surface of the mind, the great ocean of your being is always and forever at peace. The path to that peace is now and always just one gentle breath away.